There's no me.
Hello. Welcome to JavaScript Girl in a .NET World. My name is Alyssa Nichol, and joining me today, I have not one amazing persons, but two amazing persons, or maybe three. I don't know if we're counting Eric, but we'll get to that. So, so welcome, Layla, on this side. Hi. And also Jim. Ooh, yeah, that one's much easier.
Hello.
So last week, Layla was on the show with me, and Jim was giving us all these like incredible tidbits in chat, and we were like, maybe he should come on IRL in person and give us a bit of a history.
It rarely happens. I never appear on camera.
I was gonna say, like, Layla, do you make him stream with you? What?
Well, we used to stream together, and this was why we didn't, because I don't know why there was something happening downstairs. I just heard a whole load of noise. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, we used to stream. We used to have a show together last year, but it was just, it was hard work. We did like a news show, and it was a lot of effort.
Was it like code news?
Yeah, like tech news. Yeah.
I don't know how other folks find it, but I'm easily distracted. I guess I'm another one of this ADHD crowd. But if you're trying to concentrate on doing your work, trying to do a stream, and you've got dogs fighting and barking underneath your desk, I couldn't do it. So it's no, I just parked it for a little bit. So.
Oh, no, that totally makes sense. And Layla likes to add in the extra complexity of being in a standing chair that rocks. So
I know.
Tell me about I'm on it.
Whee! Are you actually on it right now?
Yeah. And the thing is, I can stretch on it. So before we went live, before you came on, I was like, stretching right over it. I can rock.
I cannot believe, like, I would be on my face. Absolutely impressed. Hey, Salt, how are ya? Hi.
I guess something else we should explain for your viewers is that Layla and I are in the same house. She's in an office to me that way, and I'm kind of behind Layla. You wouldn't know that, but just if we start sort of kind of referring to each other in very close terms, that's why.
And apparently there's a party downstairs that you're not invited to.
I'm never invited to any of the parties.
No. So Jim has his door shut so that we can't hear each other like in real life. And yeah, I just as we went live, I don't know what's going on downstairs. I don't know if the letterbox went or if there's a burglar or if, I don't know. Like,
who knows? I can't hear. Got my headphones on.
Yeah. Well, if someone comes in and we see someone from behind, I will warn both of you. Hey.
Okay, good.
You're not alone. Hey, from Portugal. Good to see you. Welcome. We've got kind of a packed show today. I'm really excited about. And we're going to start off with Silicon. Do I call you Silicon or Jim? Or
you can call me Jim or Silicon, whatever flows off the tongue.
I never know. Hey, good to see you in the chat. So Jim is going to be giving us a history of .NET, which I'm super pumped for. And I think just based on how you've explained things in the past in the comments, I feel like we're going to vibe as far as like your teaching style, because so no, we will never name names in such a context, but some people try to teach me like, oh yeah, this is for this in .NET or in anything in code. And I'm like, none of that stuck. Like, it just all slid right off the brain. So I'm really excited because anytime you would jump in with comments, I was like, oh, that actually clarified everything. So I think this is going to be like a brilliant walkthrough. And
that's what you mean by my teaching style then? I wasn't sure, because sometimes it's just like grabbing people by the throat. Learn.
No, that's definitely where I need to be at. Hi. Hello. Yeah. And if the dogs need to come on camera, no one's going to be upset about that.
No, one of them just farted. I'm like dying right now. like,
It was the dogs,
What?
wasn't it?
it
Did-
was.
What did you feed them?
I don't know. I don't know which one it was.
Lots of protein.
I'm just like,
Do you get that? Do you get that reference, Silicon?
About
2,577 degrees Fahrenheit?
oh, right, so I need to read the chat, don't I? So, oh, hello, Exegete. Ooh, no, I don't get the reference, but I can understand it being hot though.
Oh, okay. I feel like there's like something to do with .NET and bytes, and I'm lost. So let me know if I miss that
maybe
reference.
that's the melting point of silicon. I don't know. Is it? I don't
Oh
know.
my god! Oh my god!
We're
I need to
being
learn
really
something.
Wouldn't that
not
be
with it.
insanely hot? Like, hang on. The melting point. I'm googling it.
Did I get it?
Silicon.
Did I get it? Exegete? Did I win? What do I win?
Why are you giving me in Celsius? I don't know what that means. Did he say? Did he answer?
Oh, well, I've
Oh,
got it like a.
I think that means yes. So
I win. I win. I win.
why did you?
Mm.
I really want to know if, because it seems like everyone in the chat is like chiming in on like, yeah, obviously, Alyssa. Like, so I just need to know, do you all know that off the top of your head?
Oh, absolutely,
Like that
yeah.
number.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, like the temperature of molten salt in a minute. Let's Google.
Yeah,
let's
because
Google.
I would know stuff about Fahrenheit.
Mm.
Yeah, like I would give it.
I don't know. You
Christy
spent your
got
weekend
it.
learning Python. Nothing's beyond.
My brain is like fried from Python. I opened up C# yesterday, and I was like, I don't know how to instantiate an array. I tried this, I tried that. I'm like, I'm gonna have to Google it. I'm gonna have
Did
to
you figure
Google
it
it.
out?
Yeah.
Was it like
Google told me, and I was like, oh yeah, of course. That's
Jim,
how you do it.
Do you know?
Jim?
Go on, Alyssa, go on.
No, you go. You got this.
I was going to say, you hear all these people who say they're polyglots. Are they being
Oh, yeah.
truthful? Can you really be a proper polyglot programmer?
I mean, I've only heard of polyglot conferences. I didn't know people were claiming it as programmers. Isn't it just the same as saying like full stack, but like in the other direction?
I don't know. Like some people. So my friend Sarah, geeky girl Sarah, who does streams with her giant cats, and I mean her cats are like this big. She's a polyglot developer, and she's like, oh yeah. She does Code Thesaurus, which is like a reference across different languages, and she can write in this one and this one and this one, and I'm just
that's
like,
really
maybe
cool.
her brain. I can only speak 2 languages at a time. Okay, so I used to be fluent in French, and then when I moved to Spain, I had to throw all the French out of my brain so I could learn Spanish, and that was it. There was no like English, Spanish, and French. I'm not multilingual. I am purely bilingual. I can't be more than that, or else like I'll
And
throw
you're
English out.
although I really do think that programming languages count as languages, even though we don't speak them aloud to each other. So I
Do
think
you?
that kind of breaks down your bilingual thing, because I know you know at least one programming language.
That makes me feel a lot better about myself.
Multilingual for the win.
Jim, I saw on your screen because I can see your little screen share before I share it, that you have like this interface that looks like gray and Microsoft. Like my interface doesn't look like that.
Oh, yes.
Why,
yes.
how, and what are all the questions? Yes.
I am ready to take those questions. I may not be able to answer them, but I think you may learn something.
Like your menu bar. Show it again. You had a little menu bar.
No. Contain yourself. It's all part of the process. We'll get there.
I want to see it.
You will see it. All right. Okay. All right. Next one. That stuff, you mean?
That. Oh, is that
That
not your
stuff.
computer? Oh, it's
That's
a
not,
slide.
that's part of the slides.
I thought that was your computer, and I was like, how did you get it to look like that? Mine doesn't look like that.
Well, if you think that's groovy, oh my God, this is going to be so much fun.
I like literally, if anyone in the chat knows how to get your PC to look like that, like, I don't know if there's like wrappers for themes or stuff. Like, I want that in my life right
I
now.
think you
retro style.
can. I think. Hi, Ed.
Hey.
Hello. Oh, by the way, Ed, you sent me some swag. I'm doing it good.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing.
I got the swag. Thank
I
you.
love it. He's repping the Blazer side. I like it.
Yeah.
I need to watch the chat, don't I? It's on a
Also,
different screen. I'm not
Salt
paying
was
attention.
cracking me up. He said, I can't even JavaScript myself out of a paper bag. I feel the same way sometimes. Like, sometimes I feel like I've gone too far to the front end, but that's why I'm here. All right. I'm ready. I'm gonna do it. I'm polyglotting all over the place.
Yeah,
Is that
we're all
proper to say?
polyglots now.
Please give me a look if I say something inappropriate again. It's on you, Layla. You gotta.
So, Alyssa, how long have you been doing the C#.net stuff for now at this point? Because this is still new for you, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's all very new.
Hmm.
So I've done a handful of streams where I was programming by myself, and I call it programming. It was really just me walking through tutorials. And
It's all
so
good.
I have built like a to-do app in Blazor. I attempted to build one in WinUI. That went extremely poorly. Apparently it's not ready yet, for those of you who don't know. I was working on some WPF stuff for desktop,
Cool.
and then I did something before Blazor. But I'll have a lot of friends who are like, you need to go back to the basics. And I'm like, they're like, why did you jump off the deep end? I'm like, that's where
it's really walking before running, isn't it? I know.
Yeah. So that's really kind of just things I've dabbled with and looked at, maybe walked away slowly from.
So I guess we want to talk about this talk, right? So what made me think about this was, when you were on the stream, the Layla, last week, you did an expression. Sorry, let me back up. You were talking about VB.net. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And
and how I see like all over the docs. Do you mean VB or do you mean C#? And that just makes me want to cry, because I was like, why?
Well, your expression was something a bit like this, wasn't it? I just thought, we could have a discussion here, and if we have like a little bit of backstory, I reckon things could make so much more sense for you. So here we go. Right then, shall we do some presentation stuff? So this is not comparable to Richard Campbell. So those of you who know Richard Campbell, he does a magnificent talk about the history.net. It's at least 2 hours long. What do you reckon, Layla? Is it about 2 hours?
Yeah.
Is it really? Is it seriously, like dead serious?
Seriously that long? He's written a book on it. So he came to the user group that I host, and he gave a sort of abridged version, and it was about 90 minutes. And he can do it quite short, but like it's epic. But he goes into all the people. I don't think the book is out yet. I think he wants to release it for the anniversary of .NET, which will be like in April or February.
It's imminent, isn't it?
It's very soon. So he's working really hard to have it ready. But he goes into like all the people and everything, because he knows everybody.
I was going to say, Rich is really connected, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no hate, Ed, at all. I have a really hard time telling when people are being sarcastic or not. So I had to ask, like, if they seriously meant that, or if it was like
no,
you know, like, no, it was 20 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours. Like,
oh no, he's a very enigmatic, not enigmatic, charismatic speaker. So he's very engaging, and he's not like reading it off. It's his personal experience. He's he's such a bright, intelligent person. He holds it all in his head, and he's really knowledgeable, and so he's just like telling you almost like a fairy story as he tells it. So it's really interesting to listen to. And as Ed says, it's like 20 years of history, but he goes into like, oh yeah, now you're speaking to so-and-so, and they, you know, I said this wasn't a good idea, and you're like, oh my God, he knows everybody. But so when you're not going to do that one though, are you, Jim? You're just
I was going to say, we've set expectations like really, really, really high. Can I just say, this talk is not that. No.
It's not even a talk, is it? You're sharing some screenshots, isn't it? That about it.
Just a bit of talking, a bit of history. I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, and then I'll vamoose.
I'm just reading what Ed just said.
It's almost as long as the last week of JavaScript history. Yeah, yeah. The jokes, he's got them.
Oh, go on and show us some Windows 95 then, Jim.
I know. President was saying that if he could use that theme, he would. I really want chat to tell me it's possible. I need to turn my Windows back into that.
I feel like it is, but I've just not seen it. Anyway, chat, that's your assignment then for the next hour, to find out for us how it's possible or not. Right, Alyssa, we're going to go back to the year 1996.
Okay.
Right, and that's what this slide was all about. So on the screen here, there's two windows. One is this thing called Windows 95, and the other one's called Windows NT. Now, I don't know how old you are, but
So I would have been 7 when this happened.
So would
and
you-
I think I was on a computer around this time. So the 95 one looks familiar.
I was going to say, so is this sort of loosely familiar, even if it's a bit of a distant, hazy memory, yeah?
Not NT, though. Definitely the left one. What is NT?
Ah, okay. Well, this is a bit of a tangent, but basically, cosmetically, they looked exactly the same. Windows 95, you could think of as being like your consumer version. It's the sort of thing that you and I would have at home, maybe in the small business. Windows NT was the thing that you would have for professional workstations and on the server. So to try and be brief, the idea is that it's manages memory a bit differently, and it's much less likely to have a program bring the whole thing down. Whereas if you had a program crash on Windows 95, there's a very good chance the whole system would bomb, which is not a good thing if you're running a server. Yeah.
I just don't understand why people know this. Like Salt is over here saying, yeah, it was like a server implementation. I'm like, why do you all know? Were you all just like really into servers back then? Like what?
Oh yeah. I used to sort of study like this magazine, sort of Servers Weeklies. That's just like the best thing ever, you know. It's called being old, Alyssa. You just sponge your stuff up long enough. And what I found is I remember stuff from this era, but if you ask me about modern stuff, I haven't got hope. So, but I do want to sort of talk about like the technology and anything like that. It's more just like the aesthetic, this look and feel. I kind of miss it because aren't those windows nice and clear and the buttons easy to see?
Grab
And
the
sliders?
edges. You know where the edges are.
I'm getting that theme. It's going to happen.
I think there is a theme. I have seen people who have this. They like boasted about it on Twitter, so that's fine. You can have it, Alyssa.
You can make your bug eyes at me all you want, Layla, but it is a boast.
To my bug eyes.
When I said I wanted it, you were like.
So I'm setting sort of a theme here. This is what the world looked like back in that time.
All right. Okay.
All right. Let me go to the next slide. So. Professional software development was not a new thing. We'd all had computers for quite some time by that point. There were professional developers out there making applications. And what you see on the screen now, the sort of tools we would have been using back then in sort of like the mid to late 90s. So there's lots of different programs, but one of them was called Visual Basic. That's not visualbasic.net. And another one maybe that you'd have at home or the small business would be something like Microsoft Office Access. So can you see my mouse moving on your screen?
Yes.
Right, okay. So ignore all that bit there on the right, which says about Visual Basic, but see that bit there which says form. That word form is going to be becoming quite a recurring theme, and it's where we hear things like WinForm, web form. This is the history of all where these applications come from, right? So you kind of go, how would you have programmed against this? Well, that form there would be the thing that would be compiled and published to a user's computer, and that's what they would see. It wouldn't fill the whole screen necessarily. It would be just that form. And the way that you'd program it would be you'd pick up tools from the side there, drag and drop them across, maybe edit the text, edit the color, but it was very much fixed. You know, the actual layout.
You didn't have like a code behind file that you could go and modify in this version?
Kind of, that was there. So if you were to say, oh, I want to make a button do something, you'd have a double click event. So all this programming is very much like event-driven, event-orientated programming, which is good. It's really intuitive to use. I mean, you could pick it up and start making stuff really quickly, but it's maybe not ideal for making really big applications because after a while it just gets like a spaghetti, a tangle of code and pages. You get the feel. Yeah. So.
And you couldn't resize that, could you? It was a fixed aspect ratio and things like that.
I mean, maybe chat can correct us.
The one when you were designing it, but when it was like in use by the user, you wouldn't have been able to resize it or anything. I don't think they were fixed sizes.
Oh, okay.
So I see Ed saying that he made VB6 apps. I did as well. That was my first introduction to this kind of programming, but it's so long ago I can't really remember it much.
Did you like it? Was it fun?
Yeah. It's a good question, that, because it was intuitive. You could just get going. You could pick it up without necessarily knowing too much about what you're doing and say, hey, I've got a button there. And you kind of go, oh, I can get some code in there. And if you just understand the basics, like basic code, you get some quite good results pretty quickly. But I didn't do this for too long. I sort of moved over to web applications not long thereafter, and I kind of left all this kind of development behind me. So, but again, what I'm trying to do here in this talk is just like establish this kind of idea of like, we used to develop with forms. And this is like a recurring theme which will come through as .NET evolves. And I think it's quite useful to understand when we got this history of like, why do we have web forms? Why do we have Win forms? Why do we even have Visual Basic as a thing? It all starts to stem from this, right?
Are the it's different from like what we think of as like a form in HTML with inputs though, right? Like,
Yes.
does this form have a different context? Like it means modal
No.
or model?
What you see is what you get, quite literally.
Class or
Beneath the skin, yeah, I guess you did probably have, but not object orientated in the same way. You would have code which was associated with a button click.
okay.
But it's not like an input form, Melissa. The form it's like a form shape, I think. This is the thing that you're making.
Mhm.
It's not a form in the same way like you would have a form on a website, which is to capture user input. So this is kind of like, here is a form. I don't know if it means like you'd use a form to make a mold. You'd form
Like a sheet
something.
of paper.
Yeah. So that's what this is. It's not an user input. It could take user input, but that's not what they mean by a form. Yeah.
Okay.
So SMAB, it says, think of a form as a window on the screen. So that would be it.
So Napalm was saying that he's worked on a few VB6 apps that are still in use. That's amazing to me.
Wow.
Like, that's amazing, right? Like that it still
yes,
works
that is
in
amazing.
today's ecosystems. Like, talk about longevity.
I don't know if they're still supported though. Like they
You don't think so?
I don't know if Microsoft still supports it.
I wouldn't have thought so, but who knows?
Maybe
I'm really surprised to hear that. That's quite impressive, because this is 25-year-old technology.
On VMs.
Let's think about that though. There's new developers coming out of university who weren't even born when this stuff was the current thing.
Don't say that. That makes me feel really old.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? But as I said, I think it's useful to understand where Microsoft was coming from originally and why we have the things that we have now. So if you think in the late 90s, there was an army of developers all very much accustomed to using these forms and programming in Visual Basic. Microsoft has to look after them. So this is why when we come forward, we get the tools that we have now. This next slide. So about the same sort of time, so we're talking about 95, Sun Microsystems produces this thing called Java. You may have heard of it. And that was a very, very popular object-oriented environment. It had its own language, it had its own runtimes. And the idea with Java was that you could have one language that ran on lots of different computers. It could run on Windows, it could run on sort of Unix systems of the time. And Microsoft said, that's a good idea, that is. I think we should do a Microsoft version of that. So they started in the 90s developing their own version of Java. And this is where the language for C# came from. And .NET with all its sort of runtime and sort of common language. And then they said, well, we want to introduce this new object-oriented language, but we need to be able to support all of the existing developers who are all accustomed to using Visual Basic. So how do they make that work, right? And this is why you get this idea of you can write programs using Visual Basic and C#. You could even have it in the same program if you wanted. So when you start to realize that's where they're coming from, all of this starts to make a bit more sense, right?
I guess, but I'm confused, because why would the docs differentiate if you can use them together? Like, because like a lot of times in the docs, they'll be like, do you want the C# version or the VB version? And is that just because I don't...
That's because C#'s really established now, but back when this was a really new thing, there were no C# developers. The language hadn't even been made available. So what Microsoft wanted to be able to do is say, hey, you could ease yourself into .NET and still use the language that you're familiar with.
Okay.
And then bit by bit, developers could start to learn C#, which is what Microsoft really wanted us all to learn, and then ease the way
Who
across.
made Java, like, at that time?
Sun Microsystems.
Was it? Oh, okay. I thought it was
Sun Microsystems originally,
right, yeah.
And then it became Oracle. It was bought out by Oracle.
Oh, okay. And then were they a competitor with Microsoft, or?
Yeah.
It was a licensing issue, I think. So from what I remember being told was that they didn't, like, Oracle didn't want to license Java to .NET to Microsoft, and .NET went, fine, we'll build our own, and so that's why Java and C# are quite similar. I think something like that. It definitely was some kind of licensing issue.
And Ed was saying that Java was supposed to be the language for the web, not JavaScript.
Yes.
What?
I know. Tangents, hey? But he's absolutely right, though, because originally what you could have was this thing called a Java applet. You probably have you heard of that?
I've heard of
one of those, yeah.
So the idea is that you would have this thing called a Java applet, which is written in Java, not JavaScript, running in your browser. And that's pretty powerful stuff. It's kind of a precursor to a modern SPA, I guess.
Is that supported still?
I don't know. I've not really played in Java ecosystem.
Well, you always used to get like CoffeeScript stuff on websites. Yeah. I don't know what CoffeeScript is. I just figured it was something to do with Java. I don't know.
Oh, did you know? I've used CoffeeScript before. It's like SAS for CSS. It's just a syntactical layering on top of JavaScript. But
there we go. I just thought it was something to do with Java because, like coffee and Java.
Oh my God, I never thought about that because I used to love CoffeeScript. I worked at a company that used it all the time. And so I get made fun of often on my Angular podcast that I do because apparently CoffeeScript is not popular, but I loved it. All right. So it's like some people stand by Silverlight. I stand by CoffeeScript. Okay. So this was the next step, the next phase.
Exactly that. Yes. So that's Microsoft saying, we want our version of Java. We want control of this. And we're going to make this entire ecosystem for all of our existing developers to move across to. And everything's going to be hugs and love and niceness.
Oh, I'm getting I'm getting some love for CoffeeScript. Thank you, Indifferent Ghost.
All right, let's go to the next slide. So what I'm showing you now is, first of all, where am I over there, up the top there? .NET in its first instance appeared all the way back in 2002. So that's when it was first released. Obviously, they've been formulating for a couple of years before then. But when it was actually released formally to the world, 2002. So, and I'm showing you .NET WinForms. And if you look at that, you kind of go, hang on a minute, that looks just like Visual Basic, right? You've still got like the form. This is actually a web form by the looks of it. So you've still got a form, and you've still got like components that you can drag and drop across. It's it's all very, very familiar.
It looks virtually identical.
Yes, by design. So that's the idea. So I think I've bodged at my slides because I think I've got it. Yeah, I've got web forms twice. I know I said WinForms there, but I've mixed it up with web forms. But let's talk about web forms now. So the web is very different from making form-based Windows applications because we're all accustomed to making websites now, aren't we? We have like a request comes in and you sort of give it some HTML. But back then, a lot of developers for Windows were not accustomed to making web applications either, right? So what Microsoft did was say, hey, we've got all these guys and girls making, well, actually back then it's probably more guys because it's a bit imbalanced back at the beginning, wasn't it? But you had all these developers making these applications and they're accustomed to using Visual Basic and they're accustomed to dragging components onto a page. How are they supposed to start making web applications? So what they did, they invented this thing called web forms, which is a way of kind of butchering up how the web worked to make it familiar to these web developers. And the way they did it was really clever. Now, I don't know if we actually want to talk about that in detail today. We can do, but I think we'll be here all night.
So you're saying it was like the next, it like came from WinForms?
Yes. Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
So
after, I guess.
SP WinForms was like a direct kind of lineage straight through from Visual Basic. And web forms is a way of making it all look and work the same, but using web technology. But to make it work like that, they had to do some real kind of magic behind the scenes, which kind of was not really in keeping with the way the web naturally works. But it was a good solution. It got all those developers making web applications pretty quickly.
A couple of people in the chat, like Napalm saying, I miss doing that kind of UI dev. It was so simple. WPF and XAML is nowhere near that intuitive. And Fuel was saying the olden way was more productive. The old COBOL guys complain how much time we waste on rewriting the functionality. So that's funny. XAML is something I'm still trying to kind of get used to. And when I was doing WinUI, there was like a ton of people in chat who had never touched WinUI, but because
Mhm.
they've had experience with some of these past technologies, they were like, try this, try that. So it was, it's funny to see how like it goes, like you were saying, how, this looks super familiar, doesn't it? Like the evolution of things. So, but was the old, when they say they missed the old way of viewing, like, do you think they mean the GUI version or?
Yeah,
Like
pretty much.
because I thought you still have that in WPF, right? Like, no?
Yeah, it's still all there. You still have web forms. That's still a real thing today.
Oh,
Microsoft still
okay.
supports it. I mean,
Okay.
this is one of the things with Microsoft is that, for better or worse, I mean, they get a lot of stick for how they go about doing things, but what they do is maintain their products for a long time. I mean, a really long time.
I know. I think that's
For the
part of
most
the
part.
confusion coming into it is because there's almost like these trees of like,
Yeah.
this replace this, but some people still use, three nodes back. And I think that's where it gets tricky. And I don't understand why they have such long support. Like, coming from a JavaScript world, it seems ridiculous. Do you agree with
yeah,
that?
no, completely.
Okay.
I think in the JavaScript world, we've probably had like 3 frameworks come out in time since we started this stream, right? So it's to have support for these applications is uncommon, but you have to think of the sort of clients that they've got. And a lot of these are big enterprises who they'll put a lot of time and money and investments into making these really big applications, and they can't just keep moving on to the next technology. Once they make something,
that's the thing I don't get is, like, right now we're talking about Angular and some of the upcoming changes, and they might be big changes, right? But there is an upgrade path that it's doable, right? No matter how large your app, this upgrade path is doable. Is that not something like whenever they're saying, oh yeah, we used to do WinForms and now we're offering this WPF thing? Was the upgrade path not on their minds? Did they not say, yeah, you're going to use this thing to migrate you to a WPF app? Or is it literally every time a rewrite? Like,
I think the succinct answer is no, there's not a direct upgrade. Of course you can do it. And the way you do it is sort of break off little chunks and move it bit by bit. But you think of your typical big enterprise, they're more interested in just delivering features. They've got a certain amount of money. They don't want to be spending a load of money, rewrite a whole maybe sort of 5-10 years worth of application. They just want you to put the next feature in. And these things just get bigger and bigger and more entrenched in their old technology, and they just get stuck in time.
Okay. No, that totally makes sense. Gotcha. Okay.
But this is where the history sort of comes in useful, because people like you will come into it and kind of go, why don't we just do it like the modern way? Why do we have to even worry about all these old ways of creating applications, creating web applications? And it's because of this history, it just drags along. And, having different people have different skill sets as well. Some developers are so used to sort of maybe working with the old technology. Not everyone wants to stay at the bleeding edge, or even sort of remotely the current edge. And so you get a whole tranche of developers that are just doing these older technologies.
Okay.
What did Hanselman call them, Layla?
Black matter developers. Dark
matter developers.
That's it. Developers. That was it. Dark matter, because they're all there. You just can't see them. And I've worked with a load of those. So when I worked for a communications company, this is like before Twilio, when I was a software engineer, and we had teams. We still had classic apps. We had some web forms apps. We had really old stuff, and like the guys I worked with, and I can say guys, there was only one other woman. She was a C++ developer. So everyone else in the whole engineering department, they were like, yeah, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to meetups and like, oh, there's this really cool thing. We can do this on different platforms. They're like, calm down, Layla, calm down. And I'm like, what is with all this .asp crap? Why have we still got classic? And they're like, calm down. You can upgrade it to an ASPX if you like, and these are different, like, so you've seen CSHTML. Well, before that, it was ASPX files, and like everything was in that. And I was like, can we upgrade this? no. And they weren't interested in learning things. They'd not watch videos. They'd never go to conferences because the company wouldn't pay for them to go. And they're all like family guys. So they didn't want to take their vacation times to go to a conference. They want to spend it with their family. So they never upgrade themselves. And so they're all there at the back of, like, they're the backbone of development, and that you just don't see them. You never hear from them. You never see them. You don't know how to connect with them because they would never be coming to watch a show like this. They won't be on Twitter. So that's why I think the dark matter really describes this type of developer well, because you just don't know they're there, but you know they're there.
Did the article or maybe a talk afterwards give an estimate on like what percentage?
I think 99%. I think looking at that, what Sultan Burnham's shared, I see a 99.
I mean, that would be ridiculous, right? Like for that to be that high, you really like.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a crazy idea, isn't it? I could believe it being maybe not 99%.
99%. The unseen 99%.
But I could believe it being really high.
Wow.
The thing is, in DevRel, you can almost live in a bubble, can't you? Because you're surrounded by people who it's their job to be like learning the new stuff, staying current.
It's their job to care. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it's bizarre to me to hear that percentage.
And those people who are not directly in DevRel, they're going to be sort of the folks who are, really interested in learning more and staying current because they're going to be, following DevRel type people. So again, they're not your normal type of developer. They're people that want to learn and sort of be at the forefront. And everyone else, 5:30, time to go home and sort of put the kids to bed or whatever it is they do. And it's you can quite easily imagine that people just don't stay current.
I'm bringing your slide back up, but I think it's fascinating, and I think Salt shared the link to it in the chat, so I'm definitely gonna. Yeah, there it is. Check out the dark matter developers, the unseen 99. Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Right. There was another comment in there I thought was quite interesting. Ed, I think it's rolled on by there, but Ed was saying about JavaScript support, and I've not touched on this in this talk, but I think it's worth noting, is that back in this era, sort of late 90s, early 2000s, JavaScript was really slow and didn't have as many features, didn't have the compatibility. Oh, yes, slow. So we take it for granted just how snappy JavaScript is for like updating screen elements. Back then, it wasn't. It was terrible. It was not a reliable way of making applications. So your web applications would normally be doing round trips back to the server. If you make a change, it'd be posting back to the server, which would do something in server memory and then sort of put the results back to the screen. I don't think it was until about 2008. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong here. But about 2008, that kind of time, that Google started really rewriting the JavaScript engines. V8 engine rings a bell.
Yeah, and then that was what Exec was saying. Terribly slow prior to Google releasing V8.
It was in the chat. I beg your pardon. Gotcha.
So
yeah.
I wonder when that was. So people were like not wanting to use JavaScript then, I'm assuming, because of this?
It just wasn't fit for purpose for how we would use it now. But back then, the sort of thing you might do would be maybe you've got a form that you want to update a graphic to like check mark or something like that. You do sort of low-hanging things with it. But equally so, you couldn't really guarantee that JavaScript would run all the browsers. So you'd end up with corporations making applications which would be for IE 6, Internet Explorer 6, or no, come back a bit, it's older than that, IE 4 or 5 explicitly. But it wouldn't work on not Firefox. What was the contemporary browser at the time?
Opera?
Possibly Opera.
Navigator?
You think Opera was that old?
I don't know.
I'm thinking Navigator.
I'm thinking Netscape Navigator.
So, yeah, but that's something that we just take for granted now, right? Having sort of JavaScript which runs on all the browsers and runs really performantly. That wasn't a thing back then.
Mosaic?
Possibly.
Yeah, Mosaic sounds familiar, but okay.
I mean, my first experience of the web was with a browser that didn't even have graphics. It was text only. And you kind of go, how on earth could that have worked?
I know. I'm thinking like, isn't that how the dark web works? Like,
I've seen the dark web on TV where it's like, in a darkened room with ones and zeros whizzing across, and these people in hoodies and glasses, like like sunglasses, can just read these ones and zeros like fluently. So
Okay,
that's it.
I think that
Exegete
browser's
said that he
called Links.
uses text browsers every day. We're going to need a link. All right. We need to know exactly what you're using on the daily because Alyssa wants to see. What were you saying, Jim?
I was racking my brain. I think that browser was called Lynx, Lynx.
That's what chat's saying. You need chat up on your screen.
All right, let me make
side.
it bigger. Let me make it bigger.
There you go. There you go. Oh, Fritz has come in and says web forms are the best.
Then he might be being ironic, possibly.
I think Jeff is actually genuinely a fan of web forms.
Okay, so this is the thing that's really hard, like stepping into this world and all of these undercurrents and opinions. Like I had someone who loves me dearly, and they slacked me privately, and they were like, "Why are you learning WPF?" And I was like, "Why am I upsetting so many people with my learning journey? Like so many people, like." So
Just do it. Just do it. That's crazy.
Oh, hey Fritzy. Hey everybody. I love the chat, by the way. You're all I love it's wonderful. Keep it going. Okay, so we as someone walking into this, is web form something that I should reasonably learn? No?
No.
Yeah.
Could, yes. Reasonably, possibly. But the thing is, it's not that it's not current. There's hundreds of companies out there, I'm sure, who are still using it now. It might be out of date. It may not be the current bleeding edge thing. But I tell you now, there's enough corporations out there which are still using it all the time.
But just to answer Alyssa's question, no. Do not learn web forms, Alyssa. No.
What about WinForms?
People say no, but I that was the first bit of C# I did was WinForms. So, but you don't need to learn web forms.
I think not. I wouldn't go anywhere near it. Not now. Unless you had a job where your company, you just imagine you got a new job and they're saying, oh, by the way, all that stuff that we told in the interview, you're not going to be doing that. No. We actually want you to maintain this old thing, and you get suckered into maintaining old applications. That's when you would learn it.
Oh, see, and this is like another thing that I don't really get. C# Fritz is saying that WinForms, yes, it's in .NET 6. What the crap is web forms in? Like,
it's not.
It's in .NET 5? Like,
no,
what?
It's not. It's in Framework. Like Framework 4.67. Was that
so
what we
you
were
have
on
now
now?
hit upon something I have no.
Well, you
What?
see, I think Jim has slides.
I've got slides.
Oh,
We'll go there in a minute.
Okay.
Thank God.
Right.
Because we've already talked about that. Okay, so like we are two web forms. We have .NET. .NET's a thing right now. So how is it not in .NET? Because it's after this point in history, right? Like we have.
I think we're
.NET
getting
still.
mixed up. So
okay, I'm mixed up.
that's right. .NET 2002 onwards. .NET all the way through to now. At the beginning, there was WinForms, which is for your Windows desktop development, and then there was ASP.NET, which allowed us to make web forms. But they've been a thing all the way from the beginning. So
Where was Classic?
Classic, let's not talk about that.
Okay.
It's one tangent too many.
Let's not talk about that. Okay.
I love it. Anytime someone
You've
says
got all
something,
evening, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, anytime someone says something like that, I'm like writing it down, like, must find out what this classic business is, right?
I know all about Classic. That basically was the staple of my career for like 5-6 years, if not more. It's very different to all of this.
Oh, okay. Okay. But is it, so it's not considered .NET then? Because it's like its own thing. Like it's,
no, it's a kind of precursor to .NET.
I'll show you some stuff on that, Alyssa, on another thing.
It was no UI. See, like we'll look on the screen here, we can see like sort of like forms and buttons to drag across. There's none of that. It was a scripting engine, language.
Cool. Okay.
So you would have HTML markup with a little islands of Visual Basic code, and that code would do things like establish a database connection and maybe sort of pull some results back from a database server and display rows of table markup. But it's a very manual sort of way of making websites. And this is why web forms came to be, because they had all of these developers, really, thousands of developers doing Visual Basic 6, not so many doing this newfangled web development thing. But what they want to do is have all those army of developers making web applications using .NET. So that's why web forms came to be.
I love it. Okay, so don't learn web forms. What is after this point? Like, what happened? Because have we talked about you already talked about WinForms, right? Or no? Yes.
I touched on it. So
Right.
WinForms and web forms, both the same era, both the same moment they came out.
Okay.
So web forms was a way of making websites that looked like WinForms and looked like Visual Basic, but was still a website.
Okay.
There's still this expression going, isn't it?
No, I'm like, I process slower than normal people. Like, it's known when I have a group of friends and we're all like hanging out and a joke is said, I literally 15, 20 seconds, I will laugh after everyone. It just
you're in good company here then. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but there's a heavy buffer. So it's not you. I'm just processing what you're saying. I think Raven was saying something similar. Web forms was invented in the same time and space when we had VB developers in the millions needed a place to build the next web applications. Web forms was the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was clever. Mr. Fritz was spot on by saying, actually, it was good. The way they approached the problem was genius, really. But it was just made the web a very flabby, bloaty, slow way of making web applications. And it worked, but there's better ways of making websites. And that's where we move further down the line.
Oh, thank you, Fritz. I'm writing this down. So I have started my WPF journey, but apparently I need to reach out to Fierce Kittens for furthering it. I love that. I didn't know she was in that space.
I thought she did mostly Blazor. I had no idea either. That's really cool.
All right. Are we all right for time, by the way? Because there's lots to cover.
Well, next slide then.
Okay, let's move on. Right. So this is a slide that a lot of people in .NET will be kind of go, hey, wait, what's that? Because it's nothing to do with Microsoft. So let me set the story here. There's that thing there called Mono, the Mono framework, which was still .NET. And the thing with Microsoft's .NET framework is that it only worked on Windows. And there's developers out there who said, hey, we really like .NET, and we really love C#, but it doesn't work on our Linux machines, on our Unix machines. So a group of people got together and said, let's make an open source project to kind of correct this wrong. And early 2000, I can't remember the exact dates, they announced it to the world. And in 2004, which you can see up there, this thing called Mono.NET was released. Now, if you're a Microsoft developer, completely entrenched in this Microsoft ecosystem, there's a really good chance that you hadn't even heard of this thing, right? It's just something like a little small subset of developers would be using. But for those that actually did work on Linux, this is their way to write programs using some sort of .NET. Let's not go down that path too much. Let's talk about Unity next. I was amazed that Unity is that old. If you'd asked me, I would have said maybe sort of like 2010s, that kind of time period. But Unity's been around since 2005. And you're probably kind of going, Jim, what's a game engine got to do with .NET? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you write your code in Unity, you're using .NET, but you're using that Mono.NET, and you write it all in C#. So you get that nice language that you're familiar with, and nice robust, does all the memory management, but inside of a game engine. So I thought that's worth mentioning because that's quite cool. So, and just to clarify, that doesn't mean that Unity itself was actually written in .NET. It was written in C++ just because it needs to be fast and performant. But from like a scripting language that you and I might write things in, that was all done in C#, right?
Was Mono C++ too?
What was that?
I see that Unity is written in C++. So
what was Mono written in? I suppose that's the same sort of question as what was .NET written in fundamentally. And I reckon it probably was C++. I don't know for a fact. Maybe chat can set us straight.
We've seen, you were rooting through for your random blog, Jim, and you were rooting through the source code on .NET, and you found it was C++, didn't you?
Oh, that's a good reminder. And there you go, Alyssa. You remember you were saying you don't always remember stuff? Here's a good example. I wrote a blog just a few weeks ago, and I've forgotten that already. So, yes.
Mm.
I mean, there's probably bits, probably like real low-level bits may even be written in assembly. I really don't know. I wouldn't speculate. But back then, it definitely wasn't. .NET wasn't written in C# itself. It is nowadays, but back then it wasn't. Right. Any questions, or should we move on?
I think I'm ready. I'm excited for the next bit.
Excellent. Right. So this is the world of .NET. So we got that release there in 2002, and then bit by bit they started bringing out increments, new little changes, adding new features to the language. So the big thing here is that I've highlighted. Oh dear, let me go back. Did you see that Silverlight? I knew we were going to talk about Silverlight. So that's my mouse wheel. C#2, C#3, look at the dates. You can kind of see how things were starting to come out every couple of years, adding new features to the language.
Numbers?
What? What's that?
It does. Yeah. C# has numbers.
Why does it have I don't. You're upsetting me greatly. Okay. Hang on. What? It's just C#.
It's just C#.
Why are you giving numbers, Jim?
Oh, yeah, that thing.
Just it doesn't have numbers. Just ignore those numbers there, okay?
Is it really up to 10?
Yeah.
Wait, does .NET try to match?
No. So it's .NET 6, C# 10.
Alyssa, that's an excellent question, because Microsoft are very famous for being really kind of consistent with their naming and numbering conventions. So yeah, in the early days, it kind of did. .NET 3 was C# 3, and then give it like a couple of years, and Microsoft goes, let's make up some new numbering system. So for example, you remember that Windows 9 that came out a couple of years ago?
Did you say Windows 9?
No,
I'm messing with you. I'm being a bad Jim.
And .NET 4, yes, that's it. Yeah, it's like Angular 3. Was there ever an Angular 3? No.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. There wasn't. I mean, if you're being proper, you don't say it.
Huh?
What? Okay, so back in the day, did they say, "I'm in C# 2. Are you in C# 3?" Like, did they talk like that, or was that not? No, you don't know. I just didn't know if they ever said the numbers or if it was just always.
I don't remember talking about C# versions back at the time, but the actual .NET version was absolutely a thing. Because what would happen is it'd be a big deal. Every sort of like year or two, you get this big package from Microsoft, and it was a big deal that you had to install it on all your computers and your servers. It was, we definitely knew about the .NET version for sure.
Okay.
And then you've been talking about WPF, right? So there we go. 2007 is when that turned up. So it wasn't in the original .NET, but in .NET 3, that's when WPF turned up to the party.
So, but it's not still in .NET 3, right? Like,
yeah,
like it is. Wait, what?
Everything that's in there, .NET builds up. They keep adding more and more toys into the bucket. So it was introduced in .NET 3, but it's been there ever since.
Right. So, like, if I make when I made my new WPF app, it's not using .NET 3 right now.
No.
Okay.
That's just when it first was released. So, like, the feature first came out, and then they keep upgrading it as it goes along.
And then WCF, I've never heard that one mentioned. What is that? Is that for desktop apps?
That's more of a server thing. So that was for about making network APIs. So, hey, you're accustomed to making REST APIs in JavaScript now, aren't you? In Node, I guess. So if you get posts, all that kind of stuff, it's kind of related to there. That's probably the easiest way to describe it.
Wait, so if I need to do like API calls in my WPF app, am I going to use WCF or no? Maybe.
You might consume a WCF service off a Windows server.
Okay.
Except you probably wouldn't be using JSON. You'd be using XML and SOAP. Have you heard of SOAP? Simple Object Application Protocol.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Oh my goodness, that deserves a round of applause because you actually remembered something.
Who are you? I recognise your voice,
Layla?
I think.
Layla, are you being mean?
No, that's really quite impressive because
Alyssa, she's picking on me.
She does that.
The only thing that Jim's memory is super remarkable about
is my name.
Is movie trivia.
You're good at movie trivia, Jim. Did you know that me and my husband can rewatch movies probably like 8 months after I've seen it, and it's a whole new movie to me. It just washes away. Layla was talking about how her brain, when she's learning new languages, forgets old languages. Mine just dumps randomly. Like it doesn't fill up. It just
Yeah,
empties, right?
that's
It's
life,
full of
right?
buckets. So I love that you're great at movie trivia. That's a skill
Yeah.
my brain doesn't have.
But at the
so that's
expense of everything else, yeah, sort of random actors' names from the 80s. Yeah, I'm your man. Try and ask me what I was doing like last week. No idea.
So if you need Jim to find soap, okay? What Ed was saying, Jim to find soap. Now it's Layla's birthday.
No, no, I'm not going to go there. Stop it with me, Ed. I know what you're doing. He's messing with us.
Yeah,
He's stirring the pot right there.
I think I'm being techno trolled.
So if you need to do to create a data service, do you still use your MITs to reach for WCF, or is there something that came out after 2007 that is cool and you're have to use that?
I think WCF's quite cool if you just imagine you had a desktop application. Maybe you've made it in WPF, with XAML. It's quite nice that you can connect it to a WCF service, and it will give you things like a list of all the methods. So if you wanted to, I don't know, get customer method, it would list it all for you. So it's quite cool how it can connect. But would you use it in a modern web application? Probably not so much nowadays. I think you're more likely to use just normal sort of RESTful APIs with JSON.
Okay.
Does that answer the question? I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Did I? I may have just said words.
Absolutely. No.
Right, let's move on, shall we? So we got to 2007 and C#3 with .NET 3. I want to throw this guy into the mix because everyone has to talk about Silverlight at some point. So I've called it Microsoft Flash there because I think that'll probably make much more sense if you've used Adobe Flash. I mean, did you ever sort of play Flash games back in the day?
Yeah. So when I went to school for web dev, the first I get a little confused with terminology. The first language I used was Flash, but I wasn't using a GUI. I was writing something. What was it called,
Action
Turtle?
script.
Action script.
It was the first programming language I ever did. Was
Me
Action
too!
Script
Oh
with
my God,
Flash. High fives!
So yeah,
was that screams of happiness then, by the way, or just terror of all the emergent memory?
it was fun. I built things with it. I don't know. What's to hate?
I made a cool Halloween invite to send to friends for a Halloween party, and I had bats flying out of a haunted castle and everything. It was epic.
I tell you what, though, you could just do stuff and it worked, right?
I mean, it was fine. I think they so we were looped in with game devs at the time, early on in the course. And so they had thought to themselves, what is a language that can both work to teach web programmers and game programmers just basic function, how things work. And so that's where ActionScript came into the mix. After that, of course, I learned JavaScript, but that was my very first one. So that's when people say Flash, that's what my brain goes back to, is using ActionScript. But maybe you mean something different.
No, exactly the same sort of thing. So with Adobe Flash, it was using ActionScript, and it was powerful stuff. You could think about all the graphics you could do, or all the games that you could play. It was ace, wasn't it? So Microsoft said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could have something similar to that? Why don't we have our own browser plugin that works in lots of different browsers? And that's what Silverlight was all about. So the difference with Silverlight is that it was written using C# and .NET languages, just like we have been all along.
Okay.
It was the layout was used with XAML, just like you've been learning with WCF, and all of that worked in most web browsers, and it was really good. Whatever people say about it, Silverlight was awesome. You could do so much with it. Oh, Lyle, should we talk about that application now? Is that a good moment to talk about a certain dressage application?
We can do that. And no, I don't think Flash allowed you to write in C# at all. I did ActionScript, and yeah, that was JavaScripty stuff. Yes, we can talk about a specific application. that
Cool.
Jim
Alyssa,
spent life writing.
do you want to hear Layla sounding posh on the internet?
Always.
All right.
Have you
Do you want to open up
shared your audio?
No, I'm not going to do it on here. Listen,
I'll
have you got
find it.
access to a browser and have it all wired in with the sound?
I can. Yes, I can do such things.
Let's make it
Go on
so.
then.
So in the private chat, if you send me a link,
Right,
I can actually click it. For
let's
some
see.
reason, well, not for some reason, it's very obvious why I can't click on links. Like if chat sends me links, I have to type it in manually. But in private chat, I can actually click on those suckers.
Now,
So
if I do it, will I break my slides?
Here,
that you'll
I'll
see
do it.
now?
I'll do
You
it.
can do it.
Yeah, if I can. Yeah.
So while Layla's digging out that link,
You keep going.
one of the cool things about Silverlight was that a browser, if you've got this thing running in different browsers, they work on different platforms, right? Different operating systems. It works on Mac, on Linux. So Microsoft had to write code which was cross-platform. And that was kind of a first for them, because up until this point, .NET that Microsoft had created had only been on Windows. So you almost took it for granted that it worked on all these things, but they got .NET working on Mac, on Linux, and so forth. And that's really quite clever stuff. And they managed to all shoehorn it into a browser plugin. So it was pretty amazing at the time. But how are you getting on, Lyle? Shall I keep going?
I've got it. I just will it automatically share sound?
okay, so when you click share,
Yeah.
you have to do there's a little audio, like share audio box on the bottom, and I think it only happens if you choose to
Got it.
share a window. Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right.
I reckon fast forward about halfway through, probably
Okay.
we'll get to the meat of it pretty quickly. So, Lyle, do you want to explain what we're all looking at?
All right. So, for those of you who don't know, I used to be a professional dressage rider, which is like dancing with horses. And so Jim built a thing for building out the routines that you did, and he did it in Silverlight, and people could go and subscribe, like set up an account with it, and build out their dressage routines. So you'd make your own if you wanted to do dressage to music. So this was the app that Jim built, and I did the voiceover for the YouTube video. So I'll press play.
As a selection in the action type pull down. In the text box labelled single point,
Hey, you sound the same.
X. As before, once the sequence is validated, the red border will disappear and the content will be drawn on the diagram. In this
But this was in a web browser, right?
speech bubble appear on the diagram. Adding a new movement. Next we will create a new movement, earlier, i.e. click in the space underneath.
Yeah, just scrub back and forth, just get some more interesting looking diagram.
Yeah. I'm going to find it. And then you could step through, like, oh yeah, you drew, like, I remember this taking you ages. Is it going to come? Is it coming? Come on.
Come on, YouTube.
Like, we have excellent internet. What is going on?
No, it's probably that video's gone to sleep in the YouTube servers.
Oh, look at that. Did you see?
Scroll the left-hand panel down to see it.
The
If
animations.
the text box circle starts,
This is so cool.
the text with your
What?
mouse.
So what year was this?
Everything by
This was
interest
9 years
text.
ago, the video was uploaded.
Once you
So,
enter this, the
like,
program should
2000.
automatically fix the text by drawing
Well,
a
I
longer
think
connected line
you
down
actually
the
did
side
this.
from point B.
I
Before
think
we
I
moved
did
to
it over
Spain.
2011. No, I did it when we came back. I did this over the course of the year of 2011, I think. And this
Okay.
video was early 2012.
To where
Ah, puppy.
Or banging. I don't know what's going on downstairs or next door.
this is useful to know, as it means you can insert sequences or even movements.
But yeah, that
But
was
look
it.
at that, though. It's sort of 3D graphics and sort of like really rich UI things.
So this
That
was all Silverlight?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
All within a web browser. It's mad. It's really clever, wasn't it? Anyway, you can see the comments on the slide there. iPad in particular turned up about the same sort of time, just a little bit after. And Steve Jobs said, right, okay, we're not going to have any of these browser plugins working on Mac platforms. Now, people speculate that he was getting his own back on Adobe, because apparently, I think it was 98 or 99, Jobs had asked Adobe to make Photoshop for Mac. And they, I might be wrong with my dates, and they said, oh, no, we're not going to do that. So he wasn't one to carry a grudge. No, nothing like that. But when he fast forward a decade, he said, "All right, okay, we're not going to have Adobe products in our web browsers." So anyhow, the Adobe plugins were just banned. They were not allowed to carry on, and pretty much overnight, Flash
So
was
I
killed.
was told from a web Mac life, like from those type of people who have been always responsible for my training and teaching up until now, that he made that decision because it was what was best for the web.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, I'm just mistaken. Yeah. It's performance
I
and
don't know.
security
I
reasons.
literally don't know if that's true. That was every time I was like, but why did he do such things? Because
No,
it was what was best.
No, the official line was that it was cripplingly slow for their products. And to be honest, there was probably a lot of truth in there. And as it's still applicable up until very recently, it's a bit of a security risk because you had such access to the underlying operating system. People could put nefarious stuff in there and hack your computer. So, yeah, it's been pulled. It's been pulled from all the popular browsers now. But the thing is, that killing off process started all the way back then in the late 2009, 2010 type era. Or Ed's comments, yeah.
Deep breath. Yep. And then Fuel saying Steve only did things that were best for humanity. That right there. That's the line that I was always told. So y'all can laugh, but that's the school of thought that was trickled down to me. So
Silverlight pretty much, Microsoft didn't cancel it, but they just went quiet. Wouldn't answer any questions, wouldn't say what the future it was, and bit by bit it just died on the vine, right? But anyway, the important thing is that they made that the runtime cross-platform code, and that would then sort of ripple forward into the current state of affairs. Right, let's go forward a slide. Let's try that again. Let's go forward a slide. Oh, come on, computer. There we go. Right, you saw that, right?
It was like, you mean 12 slides? No, I didn't mean 12 slides.
It's obviously I've got shakes, and it went like 5. Did I just go forward 1 then? Let me go back to make sure. There we go. That's right. Yeah. So a couple of important landmarks to pick out there. Obviously, there's a bunch of .NET versions came out. So you were saying, oh, there's more than one .NET. They keep on coming. And something else I wanted to pull out there was that MVC. So have you heard of MVC, Alyssa?
I mean, model view controller, yeah, like it's all over the place.
Yeah.
But like ASP.NET,
in this context,
why is there an ASP before it? Where did
Active
our numbering system go?
pages. So this is like just the web part of .NET.
Do you want to talk about this, Layla? Because this is getting into your sort of real sort of territory of stuff you really know about.
This is your presentation.
I don't mind taking back to you.
Hi, Jens. So you've got .NET. So you were doing stuff. Well, there's everything Windows presentation foundation. That's all done on that's desktop. So how do you differentiate stuff that was web based? And that was ASP. Remember, it was classic ASP. So ASP is for active server pages.
Yep.
So where it serves up data rather than just being a static site. So in comes MVC, which is a design pattern. And this was coming in to replace not replace, maybe it was to replace, improve upon web forms. So as we said with web forms, everything was munged together. You had that view state like at the bottom of the page. To manage the view state, you had like this like string of stuff at the bottom of the page, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's why they were like in the page that was transmitted. So that's why it was bloated and slow. You had all this crap at the bottom of your web form. So bring in MVC, and this is real separation of concerns. You have your view, you've got models that pass data back and forth to the view, and then you've got your controller. So you've got the back end, and then you've got what's being served to the viewer and to the user in your view, and then you've got the data being sent back and forth. So you now got the server kind of maintaining it rather than all of this, and it's just a much nicer pattern to work with because you can separate your logic in a much more logical fashion. So I started by learning MVC. I didn't touch web forms, and I still love MVC. And Ed just
you say that like
now.
others don't love it.
Oh no, Ed, close your ears, because everyone's like on the Blazor train, or they like Razor pages, or they're off doing Angular and this and that. If I want to prototype something really cool, and if Napalm was still in the chat, he would have said this to me as well, because he sent me a Discord message earlier saying how he just did this application, and he's like, yeah, I just did the front end in MVC, and it was like boom, 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 because that's so familiar. And MVC is just
I guess I
so
didn't.
easy to
I thought it
use.
was like a pattern methodology that could be used with anything. Like you can do MVC and Blazor.
Yep.
So like it's weird that you're saying the things that you're saying.
It can be, but the way that ASP.NET MVC was like convention based, and it really embraced the pattern. And so because there was this really strong convention based implementation of MVC, you know exactly how to build things really quickly. With things like Blazor, I find it ambiguous sometimes about what should be where, and like what happens in this bit, and what
Ed is going
loads
to ban you,
stuff.
Layla.
I
You
know
realise
he's
that,
going
don't
to
you?
ban me.
But what if like, so if you're not like, let's say you're like, okay, I'm going to do this with ASP.NET MVC. I'm not going to use Blazor. What are you using instead of Blazor?
So you have the view. So this is like a CS HTML. It's HTML with code in it. So it would look, it's like a templating, it's Razor. So it would look like Angular or React or something like that. So HTML with @ symbols in it. And you could have code blocks in this. So you could actually put C# code blocks in there. You might put them in amongst the HTML, or you might put them in a block at the bottom. It allowed you to have partial pages. So like you would have a component in Angular, you could embed components in a master layout. So you could really separate things, and there was a lot more reusability.
It sounds like this would be like the meta. Like, did everybody love this when it came out?
People liked web forms, I think,
Oh.
still. Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah. It's
I was
what's
like, everything
familiar.
you're describing sounds like, yeah, like that's
It is
what you wanna-
great. And that's
Okay.
why MVC is still there, that you can still do MVC. And it's, but the difference is that it's chatty. You can, if you use JavaScript, you can load, you can make an AJAX request to an API, but you can just bring some data and update your view. You can update the DOM manually like that. But traditionally, everything would be a page reload. It would be a full, you'd go, you navigate somewhere, and it'd be a page load. You'd get the entire page sent from the server. So there's this coupling between the server and what the user sees. So that's why, so it's quite a load on the server, because nothing really is done in the browser. And with Blazor, if you're using Blazor WASM, or if you've got React or Angular, you're offloading a lot of the labor to the browser. So your server doesn't have to do so much. So that's kind of the difference thing. Have I missed anything, Jim?
No. What I would say is that let's underline the fact that there's no wrong way. It's like everything in programming. These are just lots of different ways to make applications, lots of different ways to make, in this case, web applications. And there's no point saying, oh, web form's old, it's the wrong way of doing things. It's not. It's completely relevant. It was brilliant at its time, but things change, right? Why do you get different JavaScript frameworks come through every... We're up to about eight frameworks now, aren't we?
You're such a troll.
JavaScript, you're like, there's ban that SiliconOrchid character. He's a loser. Don't want to listen to him. But you know what I mean? It's like, just because something's replaced, it doesn't mean all those old JavaScript frameworks are redundant. It's just like, where's the critical mass? Where are all the people? Where are all the developers mostly focusing their attention? And if you listen to social media, you probably would believe that everyone's doing the latest stuff. But like we were talking about beforehand, you've got all these dark matter developers who are probably using much, much, much older tech. Who knows? Who knows what people are using? You like what you know, right?
That's good points. No, and I love it. There really isn't good and bad. And I think the old head of the Angular team said it beautifully when someone was like he was on stage. It was like a 2,000 person developer audience, and someone asked a question, And they were essentially like getting at, like, what are we going to do about React? It's coming for us all. And this was early days. And Brad Green was like, yeah, I don't really care. Let it come. He was like, I don't make a penny more or less if you choose to use React. So if it works for you, use it. And I was just like, because the people want this like polarizing like response. And, the head of the Angular team was like, go use it. So I think I love that, how you put that. Like, I really
I'm just looking at
it's
funny
because if you try to use, like, let's say I was like, I'm going to use ASP.NET MVC, people are going to come out of the woodwork and be like, oh, I can't believe you're doing that to your life.
Completely.
So,
Completely. I just saw a comment in chat from Phil Schnabel, who was talking. Is that how you pronounce it? Slap my wrist if I got it wrong. Schnabel. Talk about F#, and yeah, he's absolutely right. Or they're absolutely right. I've not mentioned F#. So they're saying it came out in Visual 2010. I think that's about right, because I remember about 2009. So I think that all kind of dovetails. So listen, remember we're saying that .NET supports like C# and Visual Basic, and they all kind of compile down to the same intermediate language. F# is yet another language that people can write their applications in, just in case you weren't confused enough.
But like,
what else can we bring in
and
here?
still be considered .NET developers?
Yes.
Yeah, F#
absolutely.
F# is a very vocal community that we love, and F# is absolutely in .NET. You see now, like, oh, you've made some enemies now, Jim, by not having F# in this. Because
I know. I
always forgetting
I was
the
very
F#ers.
remiss. I was very remiss.
So we have. Let me see if I get this straight. So we've got C#.
Yes.
And then on the same level is VB
Yes.
and F#. Like, they're actually all the same level. Yes? No. Okay, cool. And you can be a .NET developer with those.
Yeah, and you can have in one application, you can have F# and C# code in the same application. I don't know if you can have VB in the same application, but I know you can have C# and F#.
But Alyssa, you're probably going, why?
Is that just because like someone comes along and they're like, I want to do it with this, and then they like make their part of the app with that, and it just like all works together, like, or compiles
the
down?
VB bit we've covered. That's legacy, because this all started in Visual Basic, so it made sense to carry that through. The F# bit is an interesting question, because that's a functional language. I'm not really up in my F#, so you have to excuse me for not being right, but it's much more the sort of thing that'd be more appropriate for data processing and analytics.
It's fast, really fast.
It's all about sort of piping data from one function to the next, as opposed to doing C#, which is about object orientated and making objects out of things. It's a different way of thinking.
I think it's probably the difference between React and Angular. So I think of Angular being very object oriented, whereas React is much more functional. And F# is really functional, and it blows my mind. I've done workshops. You and I will do a workshop, Alyssa. I'll show you the workshop I've done and see if you get it more than I do. I look at it and I don't understand.
It's really hard for me because anything I've ever learned is like that object oriented mindset. So like, like I don't know, like it's just this bizarre paradigm that I don't really understand, because
that's my problem with it. I want to relate everything to an object.
I'm exactly the same. I struggled. I went on the course as well, and I got it. I could follow the examples, but could I make it gel in my head? Not really. Could I see myself using it? Probably not. I think I'd need to have a better use case to really want to sort of put the effort into going there. But I'm not dissing
you talk about it being faster, and I'm like gonna upset some people. I cannot imagine a scenario where C# is not fast enough.
I think maybe faster development for certain users.
Maybe, yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
you're talking about on the writing code side, not on the running code side.
Because this still compiles down to that intermediate language, right? That MSIL. I saw Ed put a comment in there.
I saw Ed said that, and I'm like, what the heck is muzzle?
Oh, you covered this with Layla last time.
Yeah, well, we talked about, is this like with the drop down and the IIS?
No, that's IIS. That's the server that serves up your web app. This is the intermediate language. Intermediate or intermediary? The intermediate language. So this is this is what everything like C# and F# and all of those compiled to this intermediate language, and then that will go down to machine and something that it's still readable though.
Okay, well, cool. There is always, like, during these shows, there is always someone in chat who's like F#, and I'm always like, what? So it's good to know where that falls into place with all of this.
Data sciences and machine learning, that's kind of the places where you find it popular. But I'm not really up to speed with that, so I can't be authoritative and tell you too much about that. But it's a proper thing. It deserves all the respect. It's just not my thing. It's not Layla's thing.
Yeah,
okay.
But it is a thing.
My brain hurt. It's me. It's not F#. It's my brain. I'm a visual person. Okay. I need to visualize what I'm doing, and that's what object-oriented programming does for me. If people explain something to me without showing me something, I'm like you, Alyssa, it takes me a while to process the words. And I'd be like, I think I'm following. Can I draw a picture? Could you draw a picture? Could you show me something? Can I draw some stickmen?
Someone open paint. Yeah.
That's where I am. And I'm like, and when I come to functional, I'm like, that's it. That's what happens.
So I see that you say .NET 4.8 in 2019.
Excellent observation. Yes. Right. So earlier on, you were saying about the .NET versions. You're like, hey, there's .NET 2 and 3. Yep. So those .NET versions carried on nice and sensibly, logically, until version 4. And then, do you remember I was saying that Microsoft are a bit funky with their numbering, with their version numbering? Well, this is where it starts to come out. So we'd had .NET 2 aligned with C# 2, .NET 3 aligned with blah, blah, blah. When it got to .NET 4, Microsoft kind of lost the plot bit with numbering, and I actually don't understand why they did this, but who knows? But the short story of it is that they had like incremental. Oh dear, I've gone back. Incremental versions there. You can see like C# 5 came out in 2012. The last version of the .NET framework came out in 2019, fairly recently. It's just a good time to talk about the differences between .NET framework and .NET Core, Layla.
I think it would be a very good point to talk about it.
Okay, so everything I've shown you so far to do with Microsoft.NET has been something called the .NET framework. And the gist behind that is that we have a runtime that you install onto your computer or onto your server. And depending on the version of that runtime, that depends what version of C# you can use. That's maybe a simplistic way of looking at it. When we got to .NET Core, all the numbering went out the window. We'll come to that in a minute, but what I wanted to just stress is that we've been talking about this thing called .NET Framework. So the naming is quite important there. And the last version of that was 4.8.
Okay.
All good? Cool. And yeah, there's a link there if anyone wants to sort of find out a little bit more information about what's going on. Are you ready to move forward?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Right. Xamarin. You've heard about this, yeah?
Yes, for mobile?
Yes, absolutely. So Xamarin was a company originally, so founded back in 2011. And that came from the same folks that did Mono. Do you remember that .NET Mono that we talked about sort of 20 minutes ago? So
20 minutes ago.
How many? How long? How long ago?
I don't know.
Like an hour.
It feels like ages, doesn't it? I know.
Anyway,
I love it. Yeah.
If you're bored or want to change subject, that's cool.
Keep
all right.
going.
So they acquired.
Right. Wait. No. So remember I was saying Mono worked on not just Windows, but worked on Linux as well. Well, when you start getting to mobile phones, that's kind of important because they have like Mac phone is like another Linux type derivative. Mac OS, so iOS, that's what I'm trying to say. That's kind of a Linux derivative. Android, that's kind of another Linux derivative. So you want .NET to work on a mobile phone, it needs to be on Mono because up until that point, Microsoft had never touched sort of other platforms. So 2011, so we're going back in a decade. So, and Xamarin had been busy making this platform for allowing us to write native applications for our smartphone using .NET and C#. So they've been busy chugging away there in the background. And then a little bit more recently, Microsoft acquired Xamarin. So Xamarin is very now much a part of like that Visual Studio suite of tools. But it's important to just mention that Mono's been there in the background all along as this cross-platform implementation of .NET, and it's always this like little nagging voice to Microsoft that they probably need to be thinking about making their platform cross-platform to support people on Mac and Linux. Right, let's move forward again. Behold, .NET Core.
What is that a cow in space? What's happening?
Oh, Lel can explain that.
Why is there a cow?
that's our mascot from our .NET users group, and we snuck him in because he's cute.
I love him. But the both of them are the space buds.
The robot is .NET's mascot, and so we have a cow in Milton Keynes. Everything about Milton Keynes is centered around cows.
Okay, I love it.
Because Milton Keynes is like a master planned city. It was built in the 60s, or started to be built in the 60s. It's all on a grid system, and so in the 60s they put in some art installations, and in
can I just interrupt?
Yeah,
Milton Keynes is important to us because that's where we live. For all the viewers who don't know.
Yeah. And basically, Milton Keynes is known throughout the UK for roundabouts and concrete cows. So we had a herd of concrete cows, and we still got them. We still got they're not the originals. They're in the museum now, but we have got some replica concrete cows of the concrete
if you're wondering,
cows.
It's an art installation. That's why we've got them.
Yeah. So like you can get these little mini concrete cows as gifts if you come and visit Milton Keynes.
Oh my God, I love it.
Mini concrete cows.
I love it so much.
So I designed our mascot for our user group to be a cow in the .NET spacesuit. So
I love that.
And I'm glad that we snuck it in.
Does the .NET sphere have a name?
The .NET bot? No, I don't think it does have a name.
Don't think so,
it's
no.
just the
He's
.NET
a
bot.
Okay.
Yeah, just .NET bot.
Full Schnabel's going Milton Keynes. Quickly, that's a city which is about 50 miles northwest of London. So I'm sure you know where London is.
Oh, so what I see .NET Core 1 is to 2016. Was that when the last version of .NET Framework was released as well? What was that year?
Good spot. Excellent spot. So this is where we start to get the world of .NET starts to diverge. So .NET Framework carried on. They kept on adding more features to it, improving on the language. And they did that to keep supporting all that legacy of existing developers who are creating all the applications using normal .NET. .NET Core. Have you ever had the discussion about what .NET Core is yet, Alyssa?
It's been brought up often, but it's not really sticking as far as its difference between framework and its place in the world. Other than people love the word core and they love to slap it on things the same as forms.
But .NET Core was, Microsoft got to that point where we kind of went, hey, we need to make .NET work on lots of different computers, on Linux, on Mac, and really we need to start streamlining it because it's over the years it's got so big and flabby. We need to sort our stuff out. I think that was the gist of it. So back in the sort of like the mid noughties, they said, the mid 2010s, they said, let's sort this out. Let's rewrite this, and they went and recreated and rewrote .NET from the ground up. Now, I believe some of that code came from Silverlight. Do you remember I was saying there was some cross-platform code that worked on? I think some of this, I was trying to ask Richard Campbell about this yesterday on Twitter, and I didn't get a reply back from him. But I think there's lineage from that cross-platform code which came all the way into .NET Core.
Okay.
So .NET Core version 1, 2016, that was kind of a cut-down version. It's like a minimal viable product of the new version of .NET. But it worked, and it could build on Mac, and it was quite a change. And the other thing is that it was properly open source.
Oh,
what was it?
The other one wasn't? Wait, what now?
Yeah, no, I was just like interjecting that it was open source, which was the big woo.
Yeah.
The .NET Framework is not open source?
No.
What does
I think
that mean?
It is now. No, it's not.
What does that mean to people?
I don't think it is.
No. I think
So you
bits of it were.
So
No,
they pay to use it or what? I don't.
No, I think it is open source. I think it's on GitHub. I'm sure I've seen sort of the C++ libraries with certain parts of .NET framework, but they definitely made a point of saying, hey, going forward, we're going to be doing open source development.
Okay. Okay. And so, before 2016, we just had .NET, the framework.
Exactly.
If I'm using WPF today and I make a
Yes.
new app,
Yes.
am I using .NET Core?
Sort of.
Oh, come
Well,
on now.
I could see where you're going with that question. And I was like, oh, how do you answer this without kind of...
I mean, is it yes or no? Like, who am I using, right? Like, how can you sort of be... I'm confused.
It depends which version, what version of .NET you're using. Okay, Fritz has said yes. Yes, you are. You're using...
Definitely no, you are.
There, you're using Core.
Why is it a thing? Why is it not a yes? Okay, so, well, because like, we're just going to assume latest, right? Like the latest version of .NET. Like that's what people are choosing, right? Maybe that's a dumb assumption. But.
So we've got, this is it. I know Jim's going to go into this next. We've got two parallel branches of .NET right now. There you see, .NET Core grew up and became .NET 5. You see, yeah, but it brought other things in because we brought other stuff that couldn't run on .NET Core has come together. That's what I mean, mostly. But anyway, yes, Fritz has deemed it so that is it. So we've got parallel branches at the moment. We've got .NET Framework, Windows only, web forms, like WinForms, all that stuff, all that good stuff over here. And then we've got .NET Core over here, cross-platform, open source. This can't run on this and this can't run on that. Okay, so the new WPF should only be built on .NET 5 and later. So only, so that's it, Alyssa. There, your WPF only built on .NET 6. .NET 5 even.
But wait, what version are we on?
5, about to have 6.
Oh, wait, because Jim's last slide said, what was it, 4.5?
Oh, yeah, that's framework.
That one, okay.
4.8.
So
yeah, that's what we're talking about.
.NET framework, yeah. This is it. The naming, Microsoft does confuse us all with the naming. You've got this .NET framework, you've got .NET Core, everything's .NET. It's difficult to follow. If you're a beginner coming into this, I can see you're really scratching your head.
So what is the .NET framework up to right now, this very moment?
The .NET
is it 4.8
framework specifically stopped at 4.8.
It stopped at 4. Okay. And then .NET Core is, you said on 5? No. Yes.
.NET Core was, think of it as being a parallel. So let me do it this way. So you've got .NET Framework coming to version 4.8. .NET Core started about here and carried on. And then they said, hang on a minute, this is no good. We can't be having .NET Core and .NET Framework. We need to bring it all back together again. And that's where .NET 5 comes in. Shall I go forward on the slide?
And here's another one now.
I think we may have gone too far too quickly with this concept. .NET 5 brings it all together. So if you're new coming into the .NET development world, you almost don't have to worry about the history of it. It's useful to know because it gives us all the context, right? But you come into it now, you just kind of go, there's one .NET.
Wait. So what everyone's talking about, the next version of .NET that's going to be released soon. What version is that?
That's 6.
That's 6. Okay.
In 2 weeks' time.
Okay, I understand. So that's how I'm creating a WPF app right now that is using .NET 5. Okay, because it's already out. I thought 5 was coming out, so I was like, how am I ahead of the times? Okay, I'm with you.
.NET 5 came out about this time last year.
Oh, are they trying to do a yearly thing?
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Every November, and alternating years is going to be LTS versions. Every odd year will be a
long-term support.
Yeah.
So it's odd though. Napalm said they're dropping the core moniker. You don't have to care about that after 5. But you kind of do if you're supporting old stuff and right, like, and you're like, or like you're jumping onto a project that like
It's confusing, right? I'm completely
Well, I mean,
with you on this.
I guess if you're like going forward, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're looking back, like there are these different branches of .NET.
Yeah,
that you have to
absolutely. So
okay.
if you're, say, a web developer creating data services,
Hmm.
.NET Core 3 or 3.1 specifically is quite important to you, because that's like a very sort of like line in the sand version of .NET Core. But moving forward, everything starts to sort of converge from .NET Core. From .NET 5 onwards. You have C#9, is it? C8, 9?
Which
Can't-
one?
There we go.
Sam,
I've put it on this
Sam
slide for
said
us here.
it's worth noting that C# will be skipping from 8 to 10 because 7, 8, 9. What
Oh God,
What's the comment?
is that real? I don't know.
I
It's
don't
just a
know. I don't think so.
So Fritz is saying something that's really interesting. He said that support for .NET Core disappears in 2022. Only .NET 6 will be supported as of mid 2022. But does that mean what about the thing that was before .NET Core? What about .NET Framework? Are you saying that's already lost its support? Like, what does support even mean? Because we're talking about the company that will support you for all time. So how can you say that?
What that means is that if they find a bug in the framework, for example, like a security problem, they will go back and rectify that bug. But what you're not going to get are newer versions of C# language in .NET Framework.
They are going to fix the bug?
They will. And they
So
will do for many, many years to come.
Oh, I see. But they're going to like freeze it in time at that version of C#.
So it means you won't get new features, new bells and whistles, or new toys. But what you've got right now, and this is important as the enterprise developer, right? Because if you're going to sort of say, I'm going to put tens of thousands, possibly even millions of dollars of investment into your software, you need to know that it's going to be supported by Microsoft maybe 15 years later, yeah? So yes, it'll be supported. It'll be like security patches, stability patches, maybe performance. Don't quote me on that.
And Fritz is just saying that .NET Framework is going to be currently supported through 2029. You see, so years and years ahead.
That literally makes no sense because Framework is older. It should be deprecated sooner.
But so
Kill it
much
off.
of enterprise is still on Framework.
And so much enterprise is not on core? Like we're not stressed about that?
They're not on core. So much of enterprise. I literally was on a company meeting a couple of weeks ago with a huge global car manufacturer, and I was on a meeting with them at work, and they called me in. I'm the .NET person, remember, at work, and I go in and I'm like, okay, so I did some chatting with them, and I said, okay, what version of .NET are you on? They're like, we're on Framework. I asked some questions, and they're like, oh yes, we've got Web Forms app. I'm like, okay, they want to port it onto modern cloud. I get into the meeting with the actual developers. I'm like, okay, so tell me like about your applications. Well, we have over 500 applications on Classic ASP, and the rest, which is they had nearly 600 applications, are on Web Forms. I was like, okay. So they just started talking about all the classic applications. I was like, a may as well have been a doorstop in that meeting. I had zero use in there because it's nothing to do with .NET. But that's over 500 applications in this huge car manufacturer's suite.
What do you do for, because I'm assuming you don't take those applications and then upgrade them to .NET Core and then upgrade them to
no.
Is it just a rewrite? Like what do you do?
They lift and shift. So this is where they just literally take them off their, I don't know, in-house servers, and we're going to put them on like stuff in the cloud.
I'm sorry, what? You're just going to keep using them?
Yeah. There's no point in updating them. And,
well, I mean, the point is in 2029, they won't be supported anymore, right? Like, isn't that the point?
I don't even know how long Classic is being supported for, if it still is.
You're saying that Classic is different than Framework.
I don't know.
Is there a point, because we talk about this like, support ends in this year, but people keep using things after support is happening. So like there is not a point. It's not like Silverlight where it was like does not work, right? Like, is there, with all of these different versions of .NET Framework and Core and Classic, is there a point that it's just like not going to work, or will we always be able to, in some sort of fashion,
So
run
what
them?
Fritz said, so as .NET, so this is to do, but Classic isn't supported, so I don't know about Classic, but Classic is a little bit, it's not quite so intensive. I think it just kind of runs. You don't need so much stuff with it, I think. I don't know. I don't know much about Classic. But, Fritz is saying as long as .NET is on Windows, you can run the applications. So just because Microsoft won't support them doesn't mean, exactly what Jim just said, Fritz is confirming, you won't get new features. But, they'll keep it going. They'll keep it there to support these old apps, because the enterprise, they want to move at their own pace. And they have business critical features that they need to do in modern apps. But they probably just want, these might be internal apps for, I don't know, ordering new office furniture. Who knows? So they don't really need anything else to be added to it. They just need it to keep doing what it does, its internal tool, and they just need it to run cheaply somewhere. So I think that's what it is. But they don't want to invest any developer time on it, and that's why they need to keep them going. And they may not be.
It creates such a weird, like, niche pocket, though, in time, where it's like, okay, so we keep, lifting and shifting these applications so that they can work in the future, but like, it's so bizarre, because you think as a developer for that company, hey, I want to be .NET developer. I'm going to learn 6. I'm going to be up to date, but I also might have to go and, fix a bug on this classic application. It's just a bizarre mindset. But it's very real. Like,
there's another issue there as well, though, Alyssa. Because remember earlier in this discussion, I was saying, hey, we've got students coming out of college.
Yeah.
They were not even born when this technology was mainstream. So what are these companies going to do to find developers who can actually support it
and do this
properly? It's a problem.
Well, and Fuel's saying that this is what dark matter devs do. I need a paycheck to pay off my mortgage. Totally. But they're going to die out, right? Like, and are we still teaching Classic? I
think so.
I mean, I guess you can always teach yourself anything, but yeah, it's a very interesting, like 20, 30 years from now, what happens,
on the job learning is probably the answer to that. If you've got a company, as you said, you're going to have like these old dudes, developers like me, who did it when they, when they started their careers, and possibly they'll get on a naive graduate and say, hey, this is how you do this thing called Classic ASP. You really want to learn this. It's good for your career.
They'll spin any old, story to get people to do the stuff. I mean, I've gone for jobs here in Milton Keynes, and I'm like, and I'll go in and I'm like, yeah, I'm using .NET Core, and I've been doing this, because this was before I moved into DevRel. And they're like, yeah, but have you done web forms? And we have got some Classic apps. And I'm like, no, right, we may as well end this conversation now. See ya, because they still want that.
Yeah, no, and that totally makes sense. Oh, like so from here on out, this is a really interesting timeline. 2023 .NET 8, like it's so bizarre thinking like that far in the future. So, but after this next release, this is the one that melds Core, or it's already been melded.
It's been melded as of .NET 5.
Okay.
So we lose that framework name, we lose the core name, it just becomes .NET. Until maybe about 5 years' time when Microsoft come up with some other sort of branding. But for now, this is the status quo, right? Yeah.
Burn. So this is everything now, and you just ignore that thing that says .NET Standard. That we're not even going to go there. I can see that there, and I know you had a slide.
Oh, that slide there. Oh, let's talk about it now, shall we?
Okay.
Do you want to talk about that now, Layla? Do you think, or is this just like information overload at this
Basically, point? Alyssa, you had these two. Remember, we had the two parallel branches: .NET Framework and .NET Core. For people writing libraries that needed to serve both. So imagine you think about your NuGet packages, so like your npm, and you need you're a writer and you want to be able to release something that does something cool with HTTP for both branches, you had .NET Standard that would work on either. So if it used .NET Standard, it would work across everything. So it's like a little bridge. Oh, what? We are a monster for bringing this in, yeah.
Do you know what? When I first heard of .NET Standard, I swore, because at that point we'd had .NET Framework, Microsoft recently just introduced .NET Core, and then they started to introduce this thing called .NET Standard. I was like, what? Yes, another? You're kidding me, right? Yeah. No, it's not that. It's this. What do they call it? The Venn diagram. It's the overlap between all those slightly different technologies. So the APIs that are part of .NET Framework and the APIs of .NET part of .NET Core, what's common between all those slightly different versions of .NET? And that's what .NET Standard is about.
It exists already?
Sadly.
It did at the time that .NET Core was a thing.
So it's kind of gone now.
I'm sure .NET 5, it's like, don't worry about
No,
it.
I
It's
thought
just
you were
.NET
saying like
5 now.
I thought you were saying it was like the future. So it's
Oh,
not.
no. This is old now.
I'm sorry, Alyssa. This was supposed to be a straightforward,
other brains are
easy.
melting as well.
Yes, it's pretty easy ideas, and the more I've just talked about it, the more I realise, yeah, it's complex.
You would Fuel. You like F#.
Right, so that's where we are now. So next month, .NET 6.
So C# saying it still exists and it can be used to build libraries that work with both framework and 5+. Okay.
So I think all this stuff about .NET Core and .NET Framework, it does get really confusing. But I think the thing I really wanted to get across was that why have we got forms? Why have we got Win Forms? Why have we got web forms? Why do we even have Visual Basic? It's because of all that stuff in the late 90s. And I hope now you can sort of kind of get the gist of why we even bothered doing all that kind of stuff.
It's weird that you put UWP in that diagram though, because when Ed was teaching me about these different, I don't even know what you call them. Do you call these frameworks? Like when you talk about WPF, UWP, like WinForms, are those frameworks, languages? What are those called?
I never know what to call them. What are they called? That's a really good question. I just call them, that stuff, that bit of .NET.
That bit. We'll call them bits. So
Bits.
Ed was teaching me about the bits, how they evolved, what they do, what their purpose is. And so I have this like little note that I took to myself on like, first there was WinForms, and then after that, I think it was WPF, and then after that was UWP, or is it UWP? Is that how it's? But nobody
Universal
liked
Windows.
So, but nobody
Apps.
liked that one, so don't learn that one. Go back and learn WPF. And so that's like in my notes of like frowny face next to it. So it's really strange that you have this like diagram of like all of these frameworks and that UW. Can you go back to that one with the circle?
This one back here, that one there. Yeah.
Why is UWP in this list? It's so strange, right? Like, if UWP makes this list, shouldn't WPF and WinForms and all the other bits?
Because didn't UWP replace WPF? You see, frameworks, when you use frameworks for it confuses it with .NET Framework.
UWP is that universal Windows application. So do you remember back in Windows 8, they started pushing a thing called Metro, right? Does that ring a bell? Not to you, Alyssa. I know this will be new to you. But that eventually came like, but that came like universal Windows applications. So they're the things, you have like the Windows App Store. That's what you write, which fits into there.
Yeah, Fritz is backing you up. He said Metro and Windows 8.
Metro, yeah, that didn't last long as a name, did it?
Yeah, and WinPhone. That's a sore subject for you as well, Jim. You've never backed the right horse, have you, with the Silverlight and the Windows Phone? You liked Metro a lot as well, didn't you, Jim? Yeah.
I mean,
he's gone stum now.
I've got a book somewhere for Metro, I'm sure. It's not very thick, though. But it's all about how you should design it, what the cosmetics should look like.
What tree of frameworks did Metro belong in?
Framework.
Was Metro pre-Xamarin? Was Metro pre-WPF? Was Metro like where does it?
It was like 2000.
Whenever Windows 8 came out, that's when that type of application came out.
So
This was part of Microsoft's cross-platform efforts because, Alyssa, I don't think you'll know this, but Leia, do you remember the original Surface, Microsoft Surface?
yes.
Okay, so that was an ARM-based device, and that was a big deal because it seemed to run Windows on an ARM tablet type thing. But your regular Windows applications wouldn't work on this little tablet, so you had to have them written in a certain way, which is where these universal Windows applications came from.
This is
So many tangents, eh?
this is an original Surface.
Oh, have
Look
you
how
got one
thick
there,
it
have you?
is. This is my Surface. The original.
That's a Surface Pro.
This is a Surface Pro.
Now, that's a different beast again, though, Layla,
yeah,
because
this
that is an
ran-
Intel system, so that's basically
Yeah.
like a regular Windows computer.
This ran Windows 8 Pro, it says on the
Yeah.
back here. So this one wasn't the cut down version that ran Metro. So yeah, but there you go. This is
so
a
Metro
Surface.
is not a framework to build desktop apps in, it's a OS.
I think that's confusing. I think it was still Windows. It was called Windows RT. And that was a version of Windows which ran
Yes.
on those tablets. Metro was a way of describing what I think Windows used the semantics design language. Like nowadays, you've got like those tiles, those big squares down by the start button. That was a fairly new idea back with Windows 8, and that was, Microsoft put a lot of effort into trying to promote, hey, you should write applications that use this kind of tile-based system. So if you ever owned a Windows phone back in 2012, I think it was, that had that same kind of tile-based UI, and that carried on for years, and it's still there in Windows 10 now, I guess, in a way.
Is it in Windows 11 though? I still haven't installed Windows 11 and upgraded to it yet, so I don't know if it's still there.
Fritz was saying that it was pre-UWP after WPF. So
So it was a little bit in between the.
why do people hate UWP?
I don't know. I just know that it was like, don't bother with it. It sort of came up and it was like, no, we don't talk about that anymore.
I don't know. I've never seen the hate messages. You could say,
okay.
is it locked into the Windows ecosystem and people always a bit funny
Fritzy
about
is saying
Microsoft?
there's politics. Okay.
Often politics.
And Fuel's saying that it was hard. The programming model was hard to understand.
I never developed for these
No.
type of applications, so I can't speak to it.
Okay. So I think I get now your diagram because these are the latest bits of each world. So it's like UWP is the latest one of that tree. Xamarin is the latest one of that tree. Okay.
And what's the common footprint? So if you were to write code that you wanted to have available in all these different application types, .NET Standard represented that bit in the middle that you could share across all these different platforms.
So, for example, let's just say string. Like you wanted the code that handled string. You'll use string everywhere and ints and stuff like that. So you kind of put them in this shared resource, which was .NET Standard. But
did it change anything, or was it literally just like these are the basic principles of programming that are the same between these, or did they have to change some of them to match?
They didn't have to change any. Like as a developer, you didn't have to really worry about anything. It was more about how things got shared across all the different frameworks. Is that right?
I'd say it's more about having the things which were relevant for those different platforms. So, for example, if you were writing a .NET Core application, some of the APIs for Windows type applications or WPF type applications wouldn't be applicable. They wouldn't have even been implemented in .NET Core. So you couldn't write a WPF application using .NET Core. It's probably an easy way of saying that. But there's certain parts of it which would be common. So maybe sort of link, that's a good example of something that would be common to any type of application that you write, and that would be part of .NET Standard.
Fuel said something weird, and I don't even know if he's being serious. Should we program UWP in C# or JavaScript? That's not an option, right? Like JavaScript is not an option.
I think it was, yeah. So again,
this is a desktop app, right? Like who's using JavaScript on desktop applications? That's like bizarro world.
I have a distant memory of that. You could write it in JavaScript. And that was Microsoft saying, hey, we've got these JavaScript developers. Let's let's get them back into the Microsoft Windows ecosystem,
I didn't know that
and
was
give them a way
thing.
to sort of write applications, because these guys and girls may not be used to writing C#, right? So that was a way to get them writing applications that could be readily monetized by the App Store. Have we just lost the stream?
Did we?
I don't know.
I
I'm
still
getting
see it going. Stream
Oh,
gone,
it has gone. We've lost it.
I don't know. Let us know, chat, if we come back. We'll give it a little bit. I don't know if Twitch went down. Give it a second. Yeah, I don't know. Mhm. Oh yeah, they're saying we're still live on YouTube. Cool. Hey,
Ah.
YouTubers.
Hi, YouTube.
When I watched your stream last time, Alyssa, the stream went down briefly, but it did seem to come back. So is this just like a quick transient thing?
I'm hoping that it comes back. I don't know. Like, can someone find out if like Twitch itself is down?
I'm going to look on Twitch now. Well, I've got an advert coming up for us. So I don't. So we're still sort of running. I don't know what's happening. I have to wait for the advert to go. Hang on, because I'm not subscribed at the moment. Bad Layla.
I'm getting that Twitch disconnected meme at the moment. You know, the one with the guy holding his head.
Oh, that one. Yeah, we're there. We're there. I see me. I see
Right.
me. Hello, Layla.
Thank you. We're back again. We're back again. Hello,
Yay,
everyone.
we are
That
back.
was so
Hello.
weird. I don't know.
Let us
like,
know in chat what the last thing we said was.
Yeah. That was so weird. Oh, there's a Twitch ad. Okay.
Okay. So they probably can't see us. So something about Windows Forms and .NET framework. Oh, C#, Fritz, you are such a troll.
Internet troll. Go and stand in the corner.
Troll. Such a troll.
Bad Fritz.
Bad Jeff.
I honestly, okay, so I think I understand it. Someone earlier in chat was saying how I think of .NET Standard as a contract of APIs, a set of APIs you can target that will work in a given version of runtime. And so I do think that's pretty accurate. Like that seems like a good blanket statement
I think that's
to
on the money.
understand it.
Yeah.
But also for those moving forward or coming in late to the scene, not something to worry about, right? Like it's
Going forward, so if you're only concerned with the new world and you're going to say, I'm going to pick up .NET 5 and not look to the past, don't worry about it. End of. .NET 5, there's one .NET, you don't have to worry about standard or different flavors. Just pick it up and run with it. If you have to support stuff from the past, which in the real world developers have to, then yeah, it becomes a consideration. But if you're in the position of like learning, you know, you can't go, how do I get my head around all this stuff? How do I learn this? It's easy to get overwhelmed, for sure. For sure.
No, I loved this walkthrough and it really did help clarify. There's a lot, there's so much. I could see how, you know, Campbell's talk is so long, and I mean, we went on for 2 hours talking about this because it's just so rich. There's so much to it. And so I really, really appreciate you walking me through this and my silly questions.
Never silly. No, never silly. No.
Yeah, it feels saying, I wonder what we'll say 10 years from now. I feel you on that. I'm really curious, especially with as like the future of .NET continues to get further and further from things that from the frozen bubble of enterprise. Like I'm really curious to like what happens and how that looks. So yeah, right there with you.
My.
So
What?
I think there's a couple of takeaways. So it's knowing that stuff that's here in .NET now, which makes no sense. You kind of go, why have they done this? Why have they included it? It's because it's got this lineage to the past and to things which were really common back in the day, used by thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of developers. That's why it's been dragged through to the present day, practically. And there's all these different flavors that's of different technologies and different ways of doing things, which are still useful, still relevant, lots of developers out there are using it as their day-to-day job. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just trying to get your head around this whole gamut of different sort of technologies and skills. It's complicated, and if you're a newbie coming into trying to learn this, like you, Alyssa, it's a headache.
Well, it's not only the history that's complicated, right? That you're walking in on, but there's so many, as like Fritz was saying, the politics of that one. There's so many, stories with the community that you're like, did I miss something? Why are you all making faces at me? There's lots of, but I appreciate you getting me up to speed on this, and I really, really, I loved it, and I think chat loved it too. They were going, "Cray, it's a headache." Yeah, yeah.
What I would say is, if you ever get the opportunity to see, if you get to see Richard Campbell doing this talk, go watch him. I mean, that guy's a genius.
It sounds like a book I need to get. I'm excited. You said February-ish.
We all should. It'd be such a good read. Such a good read.
So, Layla, I know we had console app plans. What are you thinking? You want because I know you said we needed a good chunk of time, and I think as far as our stream goes, we only have an hour left before Ed has something today. Something. What does Ed do? If he's around, you should tell me what you do, because I know it's something, his user group or something. So, or no, his podcast with John. Anyways, it all blurs. So yes, tell me, Layla, what you think we should do.
I need a snack. I'm like,
where's the disembodied hand? Why hasn't it brought you a coffee and snack already?
Because it's like, it's probably on strike. It's like, no one to play with. I need a snack. We can go and do stuff. I think there's some chocolate wafer things. I do napalm. Napalm sent me a photo of a Pittsburgh sandwich from Primanti's, and it will look like the most delicious, mouth-watering, amazing thing. And he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't send that to you." And I'm like,
"What?
Thanks for showing it to me." And I'm like, that's for you. That lovely sound effect for all of you out there is just me sucking back the drool.
That explains something for me, though, because I saw you on your phone, and all of a sudden you started making that noise, and I thought you may have been having a stroke. I wasn't quite clear what's happening.
Yeah.
No, I need to get some more water too. I'm trying to think of what we should do. So yeah, it's Eat Sleep Code, his podcast, and it comes on in, I think, in 55 minutes
at like 3 p.m. your time. Yeah.
Yes, on the next hour. Yeah, 3 my time.
So you two, you're going to go do some .NET stuff now, some programming. Do you want to take a break or just dive to it?
I don't know. You need to feed the dogs.
Let me see. I'm trying to see if I have a banner or something I can throw up. I'm going to go on a 2-minute break to just refill water, chat. And then Layla's going to go grab food and she can rejoin us. And I think we're just going to touch a little bit. I don't know how far into it we'll get.
We're just going to have a little step around. What?
Shall I scoot then? I'll leave you two to it because you don't do this.
You go.
So,
thank you for everything.
Thank you very much for having me. I'll see you everyone. See you, chat.
Bye. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see, feed the dogs and
lock them in with me because they're farty.
Yeah, apparently she feeds her dogs beans. I don't know what's happening here.
I don't know. They've been very good. They're both just asleep there, and like normally it's like feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me.
You need to make sure Jim knows people want him to stream more. So
I will. I'll tell him that.
All right, we are gonna stick up a something saucy, maybe just like a boring like background.
I could just do this for like.
I don't have a countdown that's longer than 30 seconds. So
all right. Well, anyone
so it's just gonna be the boring
folks,
background.
You in chat, just tell them we'll be back in like 2 minutes.
I'm gonna be back in 2 minutes.
All right. We'll see you in a minute.
Layla's gonna be join us when she can. So I'll see you guys.
I will be back in like 3, maybe.
Very soon. Okay. Yeah. I got it. I got it. Let's see. Comments. What's chat doing? I don't know if my AirPods are reconnected. We'll find out when Layla joins us, but I am. Hi. I got my Topo Chico. I don't know if any of you are fans. Not sponsored. Would love to be. Oh, this whole episode with Jim coming on happened because he was in chat and he was just like full of all these great ideas. Beer or wine? I wish. It is just carbonated water with a twist of lime. I know it looks alcoholic, doesn't it? It's just sparkling water. It's not that fancy fuel. But it happened because he was in chat and he had so many great ideas and we were like, oh, we should totally have an episode about this. And I know a lot of you in the chat are huge JavaScripters, .netters, and have lots of experience. So if any of you are like, oh, I want to come on and talk about this thing or show you this thing, I'm all about learning all of it. And I know, Fritz had talked to a little bit earlier about some of the politics involved. And it's really nice being me because I can just kind of ignore that and learn whatever the heck I want. So a huge part of me, I know it sounds disgusting, wants to see what like a classic app looks like and like, poke at it. So if anybody's like, I have one, I can serve it up for you. And I think it would be fascinating to look at, but jQuery for the win. Oh, yeet. Yeah, I had a code pin where I was showing them something and I just thrown together I made the button work with jQuery and there were like so many people in chat. They were like, why? And I'm like, because it's easy and it was there. Why so much hate? Yeah, Fuel saying classic app. So we just went through this history and Jim's actually still sharing his screen. I can add it. I don't think it was the right one. No, not that one. Classic as in pre.NET framework, I believe, was the history. Oh yeah. I think he made it happen for me. Sorry, Jim. I just totally I'm like, I'm gonna steal your screen. Everyone's like, he's still here. No, I'm sorry. He's not here. Oh, he's not sharing. I think you're muted.
No, there we are.
There you go.
There we go. I'm sort of here. I wasn't planning to be here, but that's okay too.
Jim, do you secretly have a classic app that you run and work on?
My secret special products are completely secret. No one knows about the dark stuff I do. Do I have a classic ASP website? No, I did work on that way later commercially than I feel I wanted to. The last time I touched classic ASP was to support something from, I think I did it in about 2012. I didn't make a new application. Someone just wanted something to be fiddled with, and because I happened to have done it back in the day, I was the man for that job. But it's not something I've worked on commercially since about, I don't know, 2005, 6 maybe.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. But I thought maybe you had a secret,
secret
classic
websites. I wouldn't be announcing that to the world, Alyssa, if I had secret websites.
All right, I'm letting you go for real. Bye. Okay, so yes, we are waiting on Layla. So she's going to show me around back to the basics with a console app, which I'm super excited about. This is kind of a multi-part series. So Layla's going to walk me through a bit of basics with console apps. And then I actually have a friend, Mike Brocky. Some of you may or may not know him. I know him originally from the Angular world, but apparently all of my Angular friends know .NET secretly. I don't know why. It's like literally every like Angular friend who I have is like, oh, hey, by the way, I totally know .NET. And I'm like, of course you do. Why wouldn't you? Everyone does. So he'll be joining us either next week or the week after to also go over like some C# basics, because as I was mentioning, I've been kind of diving into the deep end because that's the way I roll. But a lot of my friends are like, wait, pause. Let's go back to the basics, because there's a lot of things that I don't know how to do. And I think, it'd be useful to have this knowledge. So I'm going to check chat, classic ASP. Oh yeah. So I don't know if I should call it classic. Maybe I should say classic ASP instead. And someone was mentioning, let's see, Refit? Is that a thing? Napalm said, do something with refit. I wanted to do a talk. Might be a good place to start. Yeah. So Napalm, I actually already had a note. I'm going to show you so that you know I'm not lying. Where is it? I've got I have this problem. There it is. So yeah, I'm just going to write refit below it and it's a done deal. Cool. So we're going to have a refit episode with Napalm. Oh my God, Fuel has a Win32 app. Okay, new sticky note. You will all be DM me on Twitter with your email so I can make you actually get on here. And I don't want to spell Snable wrong. Snabble. Yeah, I really wanted to look at Win32. That was one of the things that people were giving me dirty looks about. All right, Layla, if you're ready, give me some sort of wink. Oh, that's not a wink. Yeah, there you go. Refuses to bring her on until she winks.
It's like I've got something in my eye, isn't it?
Oh God. May I ask what you plan to build with .NET? I don't know if you mean it in life or if you mean today. So the end goal is to, a year from now, be able to be part of your community. To be able to
are a part of our community.
No, not yet, Layla. To be able to go around to .NET conferences and to do .NET talks and to teach people how to enter this world the same way that I entered it, right? And I want to be able to build desktop apps. I want to be able to know how to use .NET with Angular. I don't understand how those two connect, and I've got some teachers lined up for that. It's on the roadmap. I'm really, really interested in desktop. I have absolutely no interest in mobile. I'm sorry, I love you all, but anytime someone, and I don't know why, it's this deep-seated thing that makes me want to throw up, but someone mentions mobile and I'm I think it's because I dabbled a little bit with iOS crap back in the day and it was awful. It made me think, why would anyone do this? And maybe Xamarin's totally different, right? Maybe it will change my life. I'm obviously going to dabble with it and learn it, and maybe I'll fall in love. But desktop and web is what I want to do with .NET. Really, it's maybe she's having a stroke. Do you mean 911 or is it 991 in London?
It's 999 here.
Oh my gosh, where is 991, Napalm? That's. Oh, okay. So President said that's how he feels about web apps. I mean, we all have our thing. Layla, do you have that? Do you have something that makes you go, I don't want to touch that? You can say Blazor. It's fine. This is a safe space.
No, I do a lot with Blazor. I like Blazor. Are
you fine with mobile? If someone was like, I want you to build a mobile app, would you be like, sure? This is okay, if you love everything, that's also not bad. I don't know what this pause is about.
I'm pretty easy about most stuff. I'm quite happy to play.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I won't learn old stuff. I won't if someone asks me to use web forms, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And that's it. And new stuff I'm fine with. I'll do a bit of desktop, I'll do a bit of mobile. I've done a bit of mobile. Assembly language. Well, I thought we were talking about .NET now. There's a lot of stuff I won't learn outside .NET. Okay.
Yeah, no, we're talking about anything at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Anything. Where do you draw the line in your coding journey?
I've had to learn Python. I do JavaScript and I'm okay. I can do Node and Express and a bit of React and a bit of Angular, and I've done Vue, and bring back jQuery. I was good at jQuery. I was so good at jQuery. I've done TypeScript. I did that at the telecoms company. I used to have to write all the typings for everything that we did in JavaScript and TypeScript. I had to do all the typey stuff. I hated writing typings. Yeah, I'm pretty open-minded about stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. I found that to be true. Because like there's a lot of people out there who have very like I won't touch that. But I don't think I've seen that kind of angst from you. So it's, yeah, you're pretty open-minded.
I really will just play with anything. I really struggle with some things. I've made I've not hidden the fact that F# blows my brain.
Right, yeah.
I keep trying with F#, and I don't know if I just need to come. I've done workshops, and maybe that's where I'm going wrong. Maybe I just need to go through like basics, like the stuff we're going to have a look in a moment. And I keep wanting. I've got a book on F#, and that I want to do it, and I want to learn it. It's just it doesn't go in my head.
Yeah, I have the same way with there's a certain part of Angular with managing state, and it's not just RxJS, but it takes it a step further. And I like fought with it for so long, and then I actually heard like just understanding it, like, and getting it in my brain. And I finally heard someone who I really respect in the Angular community who was like, this is going to paraphrase horribly, but like F that noise, like I was like, wait, it's okay to like let that go, like to let that thing that just my brain won't mesh with go. Okay, cool. Like, so it was kind of a relief. But
I've done some Go, like in Hugo, I've done a bit of that and looked at that. I'm okay with it. So Fuel is right that maybe with
that seems a bit aggressive, don't you think? Like you're like, oh, if you want to learn this thing, you can use nothing but it. Like that's kind of like, that's like saying if you want to learn Spanish, you better move. Like you best move.
So it's okay. I can hear myself next door because Jim's got the volume up. That's what's putting me off. I can hear myself, I think. So he needs to go back onto his headphones. You know when you can hear yourself? He's got the door open, that's all. And I'm like, I can hear myself. Right, now what were we talking about? You see, my brain's gone to mush. Oh, he had his phone out on loud. Thank you for the coffee. Yay, I have coffee. My brain might function again now.
I love it. Everyone thinks I'm so bougie with my beer. And it's like, Ed is asking what kind it is. It's literally just sparkling water. It looks like beer though. I wish. No, I love Topo Chico. Like it's so good. Seltzer water with lime. Yep. Eric's got it. Someone was saying that, oh yeah, Napalm said that I really love Go. I wish I had more opportunity to work with it because you had mentioned you were using you had used it.
I only use a tiny little bit with Hugo, which isn't quite the same. So Hugo is I have Ghost coffee, yeah, because it's my GitHub mug and it's green inside.
Is it really?
It is. It's green inside.
Take a drink from it. I want to see it. How it, yeah, okay, it's at the rim. It's just
yeah,
I love it. Fuel is now backing away slowly from F#. I'm so confused on where you stand.
I think F# is like when I've done SafeStack, which I explained to you last week, which is kind of like the web dev side of it. It's really cool how it magics up the front end for you, and you can program all the CSS and the classes and all of that into your backend code. But it just, I wouldn't be able to pick up an application, even though I've done 3 workshops. 3. Even immediately after I'd done one, I wouldn't be able to pick up an application and write F#. I had no idea about the structure or how to approach it. I was missing those building blocks. Yeah, I could follow a tutorial and copy and paste the code in.
Right. Yeah.
And make it do stuff. But I was like, I
feel
could
like
not write this.
yeah, I totally feel what you're saying. I would prefer VB and not bother learning C#. Wow. Hot takes. Hot takes today from Fuel.
Wowzers. Alrighty. Okay.
So can you share a link with me? I think you emailed me and you gave me GitHub access. So we wanted to dive into some basics today, and I don't know am I following a tutorial? Am I
okay.
opening an app? Do I need to download something? I didn't know where we should.
No. So you
Life.
wanted to like go back to basics with some of the sort of things that you can do. I have got some workshops. Stop it, Ed, with his 3 hours later.
I know. I saw that. And I know he's in here in the chat stressing because his show's coming up. But I also want everyone to know that I moved my show up and Ed is kind of butting in on my Tuesday. Just saying. Just saying. Layla, can you back me up here, girl?
Oh, yeah. Look at my eyebrows. They are like up. Ed.
So you and your Australian buddy can just chillax, Mr. 3 hours later.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Look, we have 34 minutes. We can knock this out. All right. So I have actually moved these over. Yeah, of course, we want to hold out like Tuesday. We're doing important
Obviously.
stuff.
Obviously. It is known. Okay, anyways.
Like, we do a whole lot of this. And what are you going to do about it? Anyway, I moved the workshops over onto the womenof.net website. So we could go and have a look at doing those. I need to update them because we've got new things. Of course, we have new things since I wrote those. Oh my God, Ed, I nearly made a rude gesture at you then, and I just stopped myself. Very well behaved, Layla here. Very well behaved.
Listen, I don't think anything you could do would top my faux pas. So I think you're fine. I think you totally.
That really was fine, Alyssa. You were just reading a title of a stream. It wasn't you. It was that streamer. Okay.
All I have to say is chat was very gracious.
They were lovely.
Not a word was said.
They were wonderful. And
they were beautiful.
You need to forget about that. It's all fine.
Try. I'm just saying. You can. Anyways,
big hugs.
Do I need to pull up the GitHub?
Yeah, why don't you share your screen?
Okay.
And what we can do, because you had questions about adding like when do you need a solution? So we could just, how about we actually just open up Visual Studio and let's just do some code.
Yay, I love this. And also I'm pulling up women-of.net workshops. Do you think is that the right site?
Yeah, but we'll just free code.
Free flow it. All right, I'm going to share my screen, share everything, do that, share, take you, put it over here so everybody can see chat, and then hide you. Okay.
And just to say, all you awesome people, if you want to contribute a workshop, like if you want to Fuel Snable, if you want to do an F# for beginners, you can come and do this. Just because it's women-of.net doesn't mean that you can't come and add a workshop to it. And that's it. We want to make this a cool place for people to come and learn. So
I'm just going to throw some out there real quick. Fuel Win32 workshop. I don't know. Who knows? And then let's see. Napalm, maybe a refit workshop. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, back to the
all
business.
in there. So if we have a look at workshop 1,
this one. Okay.
I think workshop 1, you'll have already done everything. This is sort of installing some stuff. Just getting going with the hello world. So if you go all the way to the bottom, we can flip over to workshop 2. And I think
how do you check? If I open up command, if I open him up and I say .net or something, will that tell me if I have all the bits?
Yeah. So you go .net, and so you've got .net there. You could do .net, --list -SDKs. So .net, yeah. And you need an S on the end. So just push up again. So you are on 5, which is perfect.
Okay.
Now, when I've done this workshop for beginners at various meetups and things like that, and we build kind of like a text adventure game. I don't know if all of that is on this one. So if you scroll down, this is like really like aimed at real, beginner.
I know it's
stuff. So we go
perfect though. Someone
down.
said that I should say .NET list, and then someone else said don't, or .NET info, and then someone else said don't encourage
You've missed a T.
that.
Donut. Donuts.
Donut. Is this not something to be encouraged? Or maybe he was talking about something else. Oh.
So you can get,
look at all these
lots of
monkeys.
information.
Okay. So you're saying that it's more basic, but even things like if I was like had to like, okay, make a new file and then just like write this from scratch.
Let's do it.
I would not be able to do it.
Right. Let's open up Visual Studio. But you do
Okay.
use Visual Studio, don't you? Yeah, I can see it there. So let's open
I use
it.
both Visual Studio and what is the other one? VS Code. I get them a little bit mixed up. Does it matter? Like, do you care?
I prefer Visual Studio because it's a little bit more powerful.
Okay.
I like Rider as well. So let's just start with, actually, let's do some stuff from the command line. So go back to your command line. And we're going to go into wherever you like to create your projects.
Oh, what? How do
Oh,
you LF?
oh God, because I use Windows Terminal, and I use the Mac, so I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's list. Nope.
Is it DIR? I don't know. It's not.
Oh.
No.
Did that work? Kind of worked. I mean, look, it showed my
Yeah,
bits.
look, I got it right. Look,
You're
chat,
so
back me.
smart. I'm moving that over so I can see chat a little bit. Yeah, everyone's saying "dir" now.
Okay, so let's just make a we can create a new
Is that a
app
thing
now.
here?
Yes, and then let's just call it console fun. I don't know. Let's just do that. Now with C#, that should be a capital C. We use Pascal case.
In JavaScript, we call this capital camel. What did you call it? Pascal?
Pascal, yes.
Wait, it's not telling it what kind of dir to be. Wait,
it doesn't
it's
matter.
A folder.
No, it's
right.
just a folder. So
and then we're going to go into it. And then we're going to...
Right. So...
Touch?
Now,
No.
.NET new. It's not touch either. It's like some weird thing. I don't know. I have terminal, so... all right. So .NET new space SLN. So we're going to make a solution. Now, I told you don't need a solution, but we're going to make one here. So space.
What did you say?
SLN. And press enter.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah. All right. So now this has made a solution file. So if you go open up your that, it does look like you're swigging beer. It really does. I'm kind of jealous now. Go to your file explorer and let's open that up, and you'll see what it has.
Oh, you want
created.
me to do this thing? Hang on, I'll find it. Be patient with me, everyone. I can do it. This one.
Yeah. All right. So you see, you've got an SLN. All right. So now you can just.
I just tried to press spacebar on it to preview the file. Anyways, so now we go here and open it.
No, we're going to go back to the terminal. So that would be like your solution file. So everything, remember I told you that the solution is like your application, and it can have lots of different projects. So now we're going to make a new console app. So you can do .NET new console. And now what this is going to do is take the name. If you type dir now, you can see it's taken the name of the parent folder. If you wanted another application, another project in here that had a different name, so perhaps you wanted, I don't know, a class library. I can't remember what that is. It might be lib. So let's just, for the sake of it, do .NET new lib, lib, space -n. Then you need a space after lib.
Oh, it's a parameter.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a parameter. And now you can go space again, and we're going to give it console fun .lib or something like that. And I think it's -n. And then press enter. What do we need? Class lib. So just push up and
Oh
change
my
lib
God, look
to
at
class
that.
lib.
Look, it's got C sharp, F sharp, and VB, just like you
Yeah.
guys said.
Exactly. So if you just push up and go back and just change that to class lib, and it will always default to not there. No, that was fine with lib. You want that capital L. So that's a name, and then back to the parameter. There you go. And you have to go and change that L. No, oh my God, you've done it. Ugh, okay. So now we have a class library created. And now if we go look in your folder, you can see we have.
Oh, what's
And
happening here?
Yeah, okay. So I'm unsure why consolefun.lib was created in a folder. So let's click into that. But do you see it picked up the name? So you can change the name in there, but by default it will take the parent. So that's a little bit of trivia there. Well, that's what I was saying, Exegete, that we need to go back and change that L to a capital L. And I was like, nope, enter's been pressed. Too late.
So which L needed to be capitalized?
The consolefun.lib, because this is a name of a project. This isn't like a library. So you'll see it's a naming convention. You have and this reflects on your namespaces. So don't worry about this. Let's go into the application now. Open the SLN with Visual Studio, and I'll explain further what happens.
Okay.
So go open it. Yeah.
Or do I say project or folder?
It's going to be a project, so you can.
Oh,
you've already got
buckets
it
of
created.
fish.
So you
Buckets of fish.
just closed it now.
I don't know.
All right.
Open
the project or solution. That's the one. And then we'll go open it. And now the solution. You could open a project. That'd be fine. But we're going to open the solution. And it's got nothing in it. Okay. So that's it. Made a subfolder because we gave it a project. So don't worry about it. That's to be expected that it has nothing in there. Okay. Because we've not. Oh God! I just knocked my mic over. Don't go in there. Don't go in there. Go back. Go back.
I don't know how. Here.
All right.
Did I do?
Back to solution view.
This. Did I do it?
No, you haven't. Press the button you pressed before, the one next to the home. No. What have you done? Oh my God. Change like the home button, maybe. What have you done? I don't know what you pressed.
I
pressed.
I just clicked on folder view. It's okay. It's fine. Here, I'm gonna fix it.
How do we
Don't
get out
worry.
of folder view?
Don't worry, we'll fix it.
Moke RS, I had to add mine to the path to get it to open my Visual Studio like that. Right. Okay, good. We're back. Okay. So you have an empty solution. This is like we have a little frame and we have nothing in it. So we now need to start telling. Remember, I said the solution has everything pertaining to our application. Okay. But we haven't told it anything. So right click on that solution. And if we see you're going to add, because we want to add a project to it. Okay, so just go and add it. And we're going to choose an existing project. And now go into Console Fun and choose Console Fun CS Proj. And you can add that and wait, it will start to load it. And now we've added it. But this is why you can have projects that don't have solutions. So for example, if you right click on Solution Console Fun again, on the solution, and add an existing project. All right, go into, I don't know, one of your other folders. And then again, and now choose that CS Proj. You can add that. It doesn't matter where you bring your application from, your project. you are making a reference to it in your solution. Okay.
Oh, is that like the command line bit to make that happen, I guess?
Yeah,
.NET
the
solution
.NET
add.
solution, you would add it. That's the command line. But I wanted you to sort of see it in here because you can do it. Now, if you go and open your folder, the file explorer down the bottom, and then right click on your solution. So you need to go up a level, right click on the SLN and go open with, you're in a different computer. You had Notepad. Oh, there it is. Edit with Notepad++. Now you see it doesn't show anything. This is quite cool. All right, it doesn't show anything. Go back to Visual Studio and click the save button at the top. Do you see there's two? The one next to that will save everything. Okay. Now you reload it. Look at everything it's added. So it's added. Now the solution knows about your projects, and you can see. Yeah,
that's because we linked up both of those.
Yeah. We added references to it. And now if you go look at line 6, you can see it's got consolefun.csproj, and it knows where that is. It's in the same file as it. And then if you go to line 8, you can see it's added your first Blazor app, but it's got that from wherever it was. It's gone up a level. It's gone to my first Blazor app. So this is like the nuts and bolts of telling Visual Studio, whatever's going to run your project, where are all the things that we need to build this application? Does that make sense?
No, it does. I guess I don't really understand the point though. Like, is the point so that all of this builds together, or?
Yeah. So let's just say you have a web application and a dreaded mobile application. Okay. And they're in different teams are using them. They're in different solutions, totally unconnected. But you have shared business logic, and you are going to put all of that shared business logic in a class library. Okay. So you could have that somewhere else in its own place being developed by a team, and it's common code that both of these distinct applications can use. They can just add it to their project, and they can build their projects because they have a dependency on it, but they don't need it in the same folder. So Jim says where an application could be a website, an API, a library of code common to both, etc. So the application contains everything that your solution, that your application needs, that solution file. It's what links it all together. It's like the string holding it all together. Okay.
So we've made, let's see, let me go back to this view.
Let's remove if you right click on my first Blazor app and just remove it. Down near the bottom. There you go. Yes, you're going to remove it. And if you save, that's going to remove it from your solution file. So if you check your solution file, reload it, it's going to remove all references to that. Okay. So that's how you can add other things. And that's why a solution file is good if you've got multiple projects. Okay, because it's going to be what your build is from. All right. So if we go now, this is interesting because that is inside there. It's brought it in, but that's a folder structure. It won't have actually added the internals of that. So I think we should just delete that from here and delete it from the file explorer. So actually, you've deleted the reference to it, but it's still in our project.
Oh,
so
that's
you
so
can see
strange.
it's still here.
I would have thought it would do both. Okay, so.
Oh, it has. In this case, it
Cool.
has.
Awesome. Okay.
Because it was considered part of that project. So if you make that, just delete all of that. We're just going to leave you don't need the -n or the console name. We're not going to name it. Okay. So it's going to create its. Now this is going to be confusing because if we go into it, it's all going to be munged together.
Did it make it?
Interesting.
I don't see
I
it.
think it has.
Oh, am I in repost? Yeah, I'm
Yes.
in repost.
Okay.
But
No.
how do I make, hang on. I don't want it to be there.
That's okay. Go up a level. There it is.
Repost.
Okay. This is something that you always do, right? So I always do as well. So delete repost.csproj class.that obj. So obj, and then
Oh,
that.
should I have deleted the oh, what did I just click on? Mother
I don't
of.
know.
I don't know either. Do I need to delete obj from
Yes.
this
No,
one
no,
as well?
you don't need to. No.
Because there's an obj here.
That's fine. So that's
Oh.
just stuff. You don't need to look at that. So now we've just got our console application. So we can go, let's just no, because you haven't got .NET. What I want to do before you do that though is don't press enter. Don't press enter. Because that will put it all in together and everything's going to get confused. So we could cut. Do you want to touch into, we've got 15 minutes. Do we really want to go into file structure?
Whatever you think we should cover. I don't know.
Okay. Let's not add this. I just wanted to show you like the different things. So let's go back to our project, because there's other ways that you could have something. If you right click on console fun and then go add and go in here and you see project reference about halfway down. Do you see that? Click on that one. So this is another thing that might come up. If your code, remember we were saying about this common code that might be in a class library, you want your console application to be able to use it. So you would add a reference to the other project. So it's a little bit like in JavaScript, you use like import module at the top. It's like that. So you add something in. So you can reference other projects and then you can use the code from those other projects in your existing project. So just so you know, that's a possibility. So you can just close this one. We're not going to do that now. Let's open up program. Now you can see that a console application really doesn't have much in it. And you can also see, you don't need to expand that because it just sort of shows you the same thing. So you don't really need to expand anything at this stage. And we can just run this straight up.
Oh, it's strange that this is here by default.
It's a template. So everything, if you go back to the command line as well and just do .NET new.
Inside of here?
Yeah, just type .NET space new and enter. Everything here is a template. And when you bring it in, it's already got a lot of code that it will just run and you can learn from these. So I've done a lot of learning from this. So when I wanted to learn how to do .NET Core and Angular, I chose the ASP.NET Core with Angular template. And that created an application that had an Angular front end and a C# back end. And they were already tied together. And all I had to do was press play and it ran. So, I mean, we could have a go at doing that and you can see how it could run.
So this ran over here.
Yeah. And
this is a strange, like faux command line, or I guess console.
This is a console. So this is an executable that just is the most basic program that you can write. But you can do some really cool things with it. You can make text games, you can gather input, you can make ASCII art with it. There's lots of sort of things that you can do that make like learning with a console application fun. Now with .NET 5, we got top level statements, which made it even easier. And I've not done anything with that. So shall we have a quick go at that? If you just press X on this, it will close it. All right, so in here, you can see we've got this namespace, and that is derived from your project name. You don't have to keep it like that. You could name this anything. By default, when you create it, it's always going to be namespaced to your folder structure. If you added a folder and you wanted to not have that namespace, you could delete it. You can name this whatever you want, okay? And yeah, like Jim says, it's a good way of clearing away everything else and doing it. Just thinking about the C-sharpness, the code. And then we can go and do stuff. So how about on the line above console.writeLine, let's give ourselves a bit of space. And we can do console.readLine, and that will be camel case. It should come up. Read line. There you go. And then just open close parentheses, and let's put a semicolon, and let's assign this to a variable as well. Let's just call this like input. No. Cool. And then how about we go delete hello world and just put no. Get your JavaScripty stuff out of here.
I was just double checking. I didn't know what was possible.
I think I should just leave now.
I don't know. Maybe C# has let. I don't know.
So let's go. No, we have var or we have strongly typed. So you could take that as a string if you liked.
You're saying say this
instead of var, you could call it string.
Oh, it would be instead of, not with both. Okay.
Basically, one is inferred. Okay. So when you use var, it's going to look at the right-hand side of the statement, and it's going to be like, oh, this is going to be a string. And so it's going to be, you can't have the same input defined twice like that. That's it. Yeah. So there is also a capital S string, but you don't want to go for that. There's different things. And I actually don't know why there is a capital S string. I think it's like below string. Someone in chat remind me of why there's like a capital S string and a capital I. It is strongly typed. Yes, it's just inferred. Right. Nice one, Napalm. Right. Let's now just put a $sign in front of hello world in the
right here
line. Yeah. So in front of the quote. That's it. Outside the quotes, I should say. Yeah. And then let's what you've got. Yes. Oh my God. No. Yes. I'm just being terrible. I'm really sorry, Alyssa. One line. And then, yeah, you were totally right. Put your curly braces in there, inside the quote, though.
Oh, inside the quote.
Yeah. You have this in JavaScript.
I'm so confused. I thought you said outside the quote. All right, here.
The dollar outside the quote.
And then we're going to do that. And then we're going to, the dollar's outside the quote.
Yeah, just the dollar.
Oh, gotcha.
And then you can bring.
I don't know why it's new lining me every time.
I don't know why either.
I don't know.
So you can just put input in there. Okay?
Like that.
That's it. Perfect. And now let's run it.
Yeah, you do have interpolation in JavaScript. Does it look anything like this? No, it doesn't.
I've written it like that. I'm sure it's very similar.
What? You just slap a plus on it, man. It would be
you see where that's it. Smola Gaming has it. You put the what's it inside, the $sign inside, not outside.
Like that. It should be like
that.
Yeah,
you can do that in C# as well.
You can. What's with the $sign?
That's like, so it's inside the string. You definitely have that in
what is she saying?
In JavaScript.
She's telling me that we have this kind of interpolation in JavaScript with like a $sign. Do we? I just slap a plus on it and call it a day. What is?
It's ES6 thing.
Oh, it's an ES6 thing.
Oh.
Stop being so up to date, okay?
I'm sorry.
He was like, it's like Turtle Guy's over here saying it was 5 years ago. I get it, okay? I need to update, apparently, and stop slapping a plus on everything. God.
Right. Let's run this.
Do I need to delete this part, though?
It will just write it twice. It's still valid. So yes, Rocket DevRel is saying string interpolation, and Aztec is saying it's concatenation. So the two, one is, so the difference here is the interpolation on the first one is going to create one string with input into it. The one on the second line, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, is going to create one string called hello world. It's going to take the string from input, and then it's going to make a third string from the two of them. So I think that's what's happening. That's kind of the difference in a memory way. Okay. So now enter something. So type your name, Alyssa.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Why is it waiting on that? I don't understand.
It's waiting for you to type something. Now press enter. There you go.
What the what? Hang on, you just blew my mind. Why was it waiting on me to type something?
Because we told it to. We said read
What?
line. So it's waiting for a user input to read the line.
Okay, that's really cool. Also, Rocket DevRel is like spot on with like, okay, that's what the dollar does. I'm with you now.
Yeah.
So
So how
make
about
it do math. Make it do math.
okay. All right. So go back. Let's go and do
Wait.
that.
This one here.
Okay.
'Kay.
So let's have what do you want to do? Give me
I
a
want to
number.
be able to type in numbers and it like
All right,
2 plus
okay.
2 and then it like spits out the answer. Can I already just do that? I don't know how.
Yeah. Okay. So let's delete everything you've got in there.
Oh
well,
no, that's
let's
not
go down.
possible.
Okay.
Let's do this. Not
Comment
possible.
it out.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to write a console.write line and say, give me a number.
4.
That's it. Just in there, as a string, say, give me a number.
Wait, say give me a number. Oh, wait, the string.
Yeah,
I'm with you
into
now.
a string. Hi. It's me. I'm not explaining it very well.
No.
Okay, semicolon on the end.
We're gonna make it really bossy. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be really bossy. Now we're going to use, you can copy that var input console.read line from line 10.
Oh no, I did something bad.
No, you didn't. Control Z.
It's building. I think I pressed Control B. I don't. How do you uncomment? I just recommented. I forget.
Control KU.
KU. Okay, and then read line. It's weird that we made it an input, right? Can't we just be like?
No, because you need to capture the variable. Because you want to capture the input. It's going to give you, that is a static, that is going to give you a response. Now copy all of that and paste it again below. And the console.write line.
Oh, I see.
That's it. So, all right. So we're going to say, give me another number. Okay. And then input 2. Okay. And now we are going to do something, because you want numbers, we're going to assume something. Wrap console, the first one on line 17, wrap the right-hand side in parentheses for me.
Line 17?
Yeah. So wrap the console.read line in parentheses. I think this should work.
Oops. Okay. So sorry, I thought it would.
I thought it would too. Sometimes it does. Okay. And then at the beginning of the parentheses, I want you to put int. So this is, it's not going to let us do it. I didn't.
Oh,
think
it won't let us type like that?
No. And maybe it might do it as an as, because that could cast it.
Like this?
You'd need it, and that you'd do it an as is a different way. So we'll just Control Z. I thought you might be doing that, but maybe that's because I've been doing Python for 3 days. Get rid of all of that. Just Control Z, Control Z. We got 1 minute. Oh my God. Okay. So now there we go. See, Aztec told me you wrap the in the beginning. That's how you do it.
You're saying like
Python.
this?
Yeah, and the in there. There we go. It's still not going to have it. Okay, so don't worry about that. Come down.
Can't we
Just
just say
Control Z.
this? Won't that work?
No, it won't have that. No.
Okay. Really?
They won't know.
Why? All right, continue.
So what we're going to do down here is on the new line, we're going to have, we're going to do var input 3. I know Ed's waiting as well. Sorry, Ed. Is going to, no, we can't do that yet because that's going to concatenate the two strings. We're going to do int dot, and then try parse.
I
On the
thought
same
Enter
line.
would do it.
So try parse, the third one down. Oh, here's Ed. Oh. So you need the try.
I understand
That's
what you're
it.
saying.
And now in parentheses, you're going to give it input. Okay. And then it's going to want an out. So just do a comma.
Okay.
I think it wants an out. No, inside the parentheses. Hang on.
I'm with you now.
Give it, I think, comma, out. So just out space and then just give it like 3. I don't know. And then a semicolon on the end.
And then we need to do
Is
that
that
again
gonna
for the other one.
Yeah. Why isn't it not taking that? Maybe. Oh, it returns a bool. Yeah. See, I'm forgetting it. Okay. So it will just get rid of the out altogether. I'm rusty, and the comma, the whole thing. Just leave it as input. And I'm stressed because Ed's there looming over me. So, oh God, it's gonna return a bool. That's it. So it needs to be defined beforehand. Oh my God.
No, I have totally put you on the spot, and
No, it's fine. It's because I can't type as well, and I told you. So Ed's down there, and I'm like, my head is going. Go.
Hi, Ed. Hey, welcome to Eat Sleep Code. Today we're learning how to do math in C# with Layla,
who's like having a breakdown because it's late and I have not eaten and I've been doing Python for 3 days.
I know. I should
And
not
I'm
have
like-
put you on the spot. I was like, I want to do math, Layla.
I should be able to do it. And I'm just totally, you see, this is it. Coding is hard, no matter how long you've been doing coding and what level. Because it's like, I need to type. And then I would be like, duh. I couldn't create an array yesterday because I've been doing Python.
Which one are you under? Are you the chat show? Is that you? No,
that's Sam.
Are you the .NET Dev Show?
No, I think that's also Sam.
What are you?
We're under. I have a profile that is me. If you're looking under brands, I have Ed.
Oh,
Laser
it's
Power.
profiles. Oh, I don't know what voodoo you do. I'm gonna let you do your voodoo.
We'll do this.
All right. Oh yeah, you found it.
Oh, we don't have to kick you straight off. We can have some commentary, John. If you want to come in and join with us too, I mean. We have all the people in here. We could just have everybody jump in.
I'm just going to disappear into the ferns because, I've just completely embarrassed myself.
The chat was like, "You're doing Python," and I was like,
"I know
she's doing Python."
It's weird when you start getting into panic situations when you're coding, and you start regressing into languages that you haven't written in years. Like one time I started writing Pascal and I'm like, where did this even come from? I haven't written Pascal 25 years. What is happening to me?
It's like that old 1980s commercial where the guy's walking down with the peanut butter and the other guy's walking down the other with chocolate, and you got your peanut butter and my chocolate. So yeah,
I make this reference all the time, and Alyssa's like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
No idea what you're talking about either.
It's what happens when we get two old guys joining the podcast.
I just want to make two numbers add together. Okay, that's all I want in life. That's all I want. I feel like it shouldn't be this hard.
Because
whenever you're like,
I just made a
can't
dog's breakfast of it.
You're like, you can't make it an int by instead of replacing var, and that upsets me. That makes no sense. Why?
Because the right-hand side of the equation is saying, I return you a string. You're getting a string. So if you give it an int on the side, it's like, no, I give string. You are getting a string.
Is this
So
like a core difference between JavaScript and C# that I'm like
this is what
Yeah.
strongly typing is.
baffled by?
It just says, this is the type you are getting. You
Okay.
are not having an int. This is strongly typed. I am very strongly giving you a string. You can go. And that's the whole point.
So when you want us, like when you actually want an int though, like are we trying to like fake an int right now with your
No.
try parse?
What you do is you can say, hey, int, can you take this string and can you make it, is it a number? And if it's a number, it's going to say true, and it's going to give you on the out a variable called, we'll define a variable above, and like in US C# you can define it in line, which was what I was trying to do, and I was just making a dog's breakfast of it.
I gotcha.
And then it will say, okay, if I made this string into a number, I'm going to assign it to this variable that you've given me, and then it will, then you can move forward with it. If it doesn't, it just goes,
Oh, always
We're not
return
going
a
to teach
dynamic. That's what I need
Alyssa
to
about
learn.
dynamics ever.
I need to learn
No.
that. No.
expando object. Yay, expando object. that a
John,
no?
John, is that wall really there? It looks so good
No.
if it's not. No, okay,
No.
it looks
It's
good.
like my ferns.
Yeah,
Virtual.
I mean, but nobody believes ferns are that big, Layla. Nobody believes it.
They are in my jungle. Yeah. It's just here.
Oh, okay, chat. There's like a divide on dynamics, so I'm gonna bring you on, Layla, and you're gonna tell me what dynamic is next.
Yeah,
time.
we could do that. I'm not afraid to embrace dynamics and expando objects and have everybody go, no, what are you doing to Alyssa?
Well, I'm going to pass it off because it's now Ed and John's show of Marvelous. But thank you, Layla. You're beautiful, and I appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry we went over and that I made
Yeah.
the right mess
No,
of
this
that.
was
So-
good. This was
Thank you, chat.
I was enjoying every bit of this. This was
Me
too
too.
My
fun.
life.
I just sitting there smiling.
Oh,
Yep.
those...
All right. Yep. We are transitioning shows. Rocket Devrel is explaining so many things happening. So this is
3 hours later.
the end of the end of JavaScript Girl, and we're passing it off to Eat Sleep Code. But bye-bye.
Bye, ladies. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Oh boy, they
Wow.
are so much fun. I wish I had that much energy.
That's a high level of energy I don't subscribe to when I code.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough transition over to our show.
Yeah, the grizzled
you know.
the grizzled veterans who are we're at stage 5 acceptance. You know, they're at stage 1 anger. You know, they can't get try parse to work. So yeah, I just throw it all away.
It's time to listen to two very grouchy old men talk about technology and the latest and greatest in news. I think I have all of our channels brought in properly. Let me double check this real fast.
Sure.
We've got the Facebook channel. We've got the YouTube channel. We've got the other YouTube channel. We got too many channels, John. And the Code It Live channel. Awesome. So it looks like we got everything, all of our ducks in a row. Let's talk some news, John. This is now Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerig podcast. We should have them do an intro every week. It's just that's what should happen.
Yes.
Technical difficulties. Let me get this screen off my screen so I don't do a hall of mirrors, and we'll jump straight into the news.
All right.
This is one of your favorite topics, John, but this is an article that I picked. It's the good old
waste of money.
Such a waste of money.
Such a waste of money. Why are they spending this much money? Ugh.
It's the hack your face.
I know.
Hack your
Stop
face,
hacking my face.
Concept. Facebook gonna drop $10 billion on their metaverse concept.
Great.
They want to be known as the metaverse company now. They're flirting with the idea of changing their name. Many people will argue that it won't happen. Maybe they'll do a alphabet umbrella company thing, something, but they are looking to rebrand themselves for many reasons. You know, anybody out there know any other reasons they might want to change their branding? They've been in other parts of the news lately. Let's just say that we won't get political, but they've been in the congressional side of the news lately. So anyhow, they're dropping a ton of money into this. They have a big hiring spree going on. I think a lot of this was happening in the UK for some reason. I didn't get into the article on why over there they're hiring so much, but it looks like they're going to be doing a lot of hiring.
Okay.
So anyway, big investments coming. You know for a fact that they've got big investments in Oculus. I hear another Oculus is coming. I've been reading different articles about the Oculus. Looks like they're going to be taking the VR part of the Oculus and starting to slowly transition that into AR, which I think is really awesome. So this metaverse thing, if anybody's going to pull it off, I think Facebook's going to be one of the companies to do it. I think it's going to take many to get there.
Good. Well, good luck to him.
Good luck to him, John. That's all the commentary John has today.
Yeah, I have nothing to say.
Good luck to him. And somehow I ended up at the end of our list and started working
Okay.
forward. So we'll
right.
do this to get out of the habit. Another fun topic that I'm sure you have
Yes.
a lot of insight on, John.
Oh God.
Photoshop is going to drop an NFT tool within Photoshop.
Great.
So you can, instantly print money from within Photoshop now.
Sure. My cat photo will be worth millions.
And I'm missing the comments here, by the way. This is
Oh yeah, we're getting trashed, dude. We're getting totally trashed.
There's about Facebook having a VR baby and punishing it.
Sure.
But anyway, Photoshop getting prepped for some NFT action. So it's like kind of it's in the same realm as like blockchain and cryptocurrencies and all of that good stuff. So you'll be able to basically take your images that you create in Photoshop and print an NFT, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around how all this works, because there's like this digital authenticity angle that's being played here, but it doesn't really necessarily stop you from copying the picture. It just gives you I guess I'm not an expert on this, but I'm thinking it gives you a blockchain route of who actually really owns that photo outright. So you can then sell these things as an original owner of that content.
All right. I got nothing, dude. Nothing.
This is the Stump John show today.
No, it's not. It's just this stuff resonates like a zero on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of interest. 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. This ranks about -5 for me. I really don't care.
Oh man, yeah. I still am trying to figure out where this fits in my life too. I think that's the more political way to say it, John.
There's a lot of things that don't deserve to be in my life. So
yeah. So at least I mean, to mint an NFT now, you need like some third-party apps to run against your object that you're trying to NFT.
Okay.
So this gives Photoshop users a way to do this directly from Photoshop. So that aspect of it, I think, is cool. Whether NFTs have legs to grow and actually be a real boy someday, that's yet to be seen. But this gives it legitimacy, I would say. If Adobe is giving it a direct, tool within Photoshop. I mean, Photoshop's like the industry standard pretty much for any kind of digital design, graphics wise.
Mm-hmm.
Adobe in general, maybe not Photoshop, but generally it's one of their many products. So I mean, if it's not Photoshop, it's Adobe Illustrator or some other type of image program. So anyhow, it's definitely a big sign of things to come. So keep your eyes on that one. This must, we go from like
Now
this-
we're getting into
is
stuff
it-
that I like.
is this futuristic crap even viable in my life, down to a John article that is
Sure.
some standard versus another ISO standard.
Yes.
What are we talking about here, John?
Well,
Quite a
there's
shift
lot
in
of ways.
gears.
I know, but look, I'm a developer. I care about developer things, and parsing dates and times is a developer thing that we do all the time. And there are a number of competing standards out there. These are the two sort of canonical ones: the RFC 3339 and ISO 8601. It's been ratified a few times as well, and there's a variety of different format strings that you can use. There's some agreement on what can be done in terms of parsing relative to the spec, and then by mutual agreement, there are yeah, I know. And then by mutual agreement, there are a number of 6-digit years that they're adding support for, and apparently you have a driver to install. So, anyways, the nice thing about this is you may not have noticed this, but the actual dates that are going in there are live. So as you see them ticking away, you can see the different representations of them. And then further down on this page, it actually does a comparison of what the format strings look like. So if you've ever been wondering, like, how the heck did I get this format string? You can scroll down, you can see the ways in which they're actually formatted, which is actually, always a fun thing to do. Incidentally, there are a number of languages that don't have built-in support for a number of these things. Standard libraries, surprisingly, for things like Python, don't have standard library support for this. So you actually have to use a third-party library for some of these things. But there you go. So yeah, always fun stuff. Look, let me put it this way. For a very long time,
different definitions of fun.
For a very long time, I will make it personal. I suffered for not knowing how the heck these things are formatted, right? You would scour the docs, you'd find maybe one page where a developer took his time or her time to write the stuff out. And now it's like, okay, it's getting a lot easier. The kids these days, back when I was a kid or when I was younger, I had to parse days walking uphill in snow both ways, right? So, yeah. So, anyways, there's that. So,
how was it parsing dates on an abacus?
Yes. That's right.
At least you were starting closer to zero, John.
Sure.
So David Pine and I were talking about something similar to this the other day, because we were working with some JavaScript interop code that we were discussing, and JavaScript uses a certain format for a timestamp that is completely unrelated to anything in .NET. So we were looking at ways to get that translated into, to serialize into .NET from, I think it was the geolocation API. So it's like, if you're going to interop with Blazor with C# into JavaScript and get this date stamp back, what is the proper thing to turn this into? So there were a couple different approaches that we used. And there's many different ways to do it. So we casted it to a date, and then .NET understood that date. You could also cast it to a decimal and then do some finagling in the .NET code. These things do come up pretty regularly.
And then there's, of course, localized versions of this, like star dates as well. So
there we go. I'm trying to find the correct hotkeys here to keep moving through our articles. I want to full screen because I kept getting pop-ups coming up over the UI here.
No worries.
GitHub Stalebot considered harmful. What is the Stalebot?
So it's one of the options you have in the marketplace when you are running a repo and you're installing things from the marketplace, like GitHub Actions, etc. One of the things you can install as an app is what's called the Stalebot, which basically marks an issue as stale after a certain time period. Typically, it's about 30 days.
Okay, yeah, I am on.
What? Sorry?
I'm on par with you. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just an opinion piece. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use it. I mean, if you feel like it's a valid case for your repository, sure. However, I think that there are some good points made in this article, which means basically, like, you really should reconsider using Stalebot. The reason why is because Stalebot will automatically lock and close issues that come up. So you know, it's one of those things where I wouldn't say considered harmful is appropriate. I would say a better way to describe this is, you know, it shouldn't be recommended. It should be, you know,
Yeah.
just a normal app on the marketplace.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the harmful side of this. I think these, as a developer advocate, which is my role here at Progress, these type of bots that close user feedback are very impersonal.
Yes.
And I
And
find
then you get a
them,
sense of
yeah,
you don't feel like you're part of this repo, and yeah.
right. You feel like, if it's the case of open source, you feel like the community that's driving it isn't listening. And if this is the
Yeah.
case of a
Yeah.
paid, commercial thing, even though it's on GitHub, it could still be a paid commercial thing. Then you have a feeling that that company is just not willing to listen to all of the problems that are there. And I've run into this on, it's not GitHub, but another thing. I think it's powered by user voice. I don't want to call out the exact experience I had, not to throw anybody under the bus, but you post issues here, and then if those issues don't receive so much traffic and so much time, this thing comes in and just automatically like closes your issue.
Yeah.
And part of it was, people don't explain the issue the same way every time, so you have like duplicate issues all over this board.
Sure.
And the bots like closing them because they're not getting enough attention. But if they were all consolidated into one problem, then it probably would have gotten enough traction.
Yes.
So yeah, these things can get, they can toss out a lot of good feedback inadvertently. So
Yeah.
I agree
Issues
with the
aren't
content.
yeah, issues aren't by themselves a bad thing. They can be unwieldy at times, especially if you get lots of issues. Like I've been to repos with 5,000 plus issues, right? And there you
Mhm.
get a sense that, okay, this is not being maintained. Excuse me as I sneeze. Excuse me. So there's that issue, and then also it can become almost a full-time job, because these can break out into discussions. These issues, they can foster ideas and things like that. So it is understandable why you might want to automate some of this, but the stale bot in itself really doesn't provide a lot of value. If anything, they should tag it as stale as opposed to closing it.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yep. It kind of feels like a signal of we don't have enough time or manpower
Yes.
to address these things, so we're
Yes.
gonna let automated things clean it up, which I think again goes back to my point that it makes it, even if you are listening, it still makes it feel like you're not. Wow, this is a lot of
I know.
this is
Sorry.
modern web for you.
Yes.
Sure.
This wasn't.
Okay.
This one isn't so developer oriented, but I thought it was interesting. Uh-oh, you've frozen. All right, well, I'll just read it then. Hertz order for 100,000 EVs sends Tesla value to $1 trillion. So basically, the rental car company Hertz has apparently ordered all these cars. Oh, you're frozen, Ed, but I can hear you.
Oh, am I?
I can't hear you. Yeah, there you go. Now you're back.
Okay.
So there you go. So this is a massive deal, I think, for electric cars. I'm a huge fan of electric cars, and I think that obviously we've got to get to them as quickly as we can. And this is a vote of confidence, I think, by Hertz, which is a massive car company, to Tesla. And this skyrocketed, obviously, Tesla's valuation. But yeah, I know that a lot of folks that care about electric cars, especially developers, because they're kind of cool. So yeah, I thought this was an interesting article.
Yeah, and Tesla is going crazy in the stock market lately too. They made big headlines the other day of hitting the $1,000 mark per share. So yeah, they're definitely going to be a force or if they are already, I guess you could say they are a force in the car market with that kind of valuation.
Sure. Speaking of Photoshop.
Yeah, speaking of Photoshop. And we were just talking about how John's going to mint a bunch of NFTs next week. What's going on in the Photoshop web journey here, John?
Well, what's really interesting is Photoshop is, for the longest time, people have often complained, like, listen, I think when Silverlight came out, people were like, this is a great win for like the apps, and they can finally bring their apps to the web. And we all know how that turned out. But with technologies like WebAssembly now, it's getting actually quite real. So Adobe has announced the public beta of Photoshop. You can see it at photoshop.adobe.com. And this is a breakdown of some of the technologies that allowed them to get to a beta of Photoshop. So Adobe's been on this march towards, making this available. It actually makes a lot of sense because maintaining installations and managing all that stuff. I mean, Creative Cloud, if anyone who's a Creative Cloud subscriber knows, the even the management tool from Adobe itself isn't all that great. I have it, and I'm not really a big fan of it. But managing those app distributions can be a challenge. And so what they're looking to do is obviously bring that to the web. And so, yeah, WebAssembly and technologies associated with that allow some ability to do that now, because obviously these are high intense CPU, GPU intense operation. Sorry, you're jumping around.
Yeah. Sorry.
So yeah, no, that's all right.
Organize
So,
the
yeah,
segue here.
Okay. Yep.
So I have an article or a video that has some value to add here. So like it says here, when they exported their platform to WebAssembly, they used Emscripten. This is quite a popular tool that uses C++ to cross-compile things to WebAssembly. And I don't know if they still use it. I have to circle back and ask some folks and see if they're still using it. But this is how they got the .NET platform converted over to WebAssembly for Blazor. So this Emscripten tool is what allowed Blazor to happen in the time frame that it did. I think they moved to something proprietary, but again, I have to circle back and verify that. But they basically used this tool to get that going. So it looks like they're doing the same thing here. Another thing that they ported with Emscripten that's a pretty big deal is and sorry, I've got to play your favorite thing here to talk about this, John. It's it needs to be said. It needs to be said. So they ported the Doom engine with Emscripten as well, and you can actually, and I'm not talking about like the old school Doom. I'm talking about like the modern Doom. That's like a high end 3D AAA game. Which when was that released? In the 2000s, basically. More modern than the old school Doom 2. This is like the remake of Doom. So you can play that actually in the browser, and it runs at 30 plus frames per second in the browser, depending on your hardware, but it does the same thing that this is doing. It uses OpenGL, WebGL, and those things to draw directly in the browser. So that's pretty cool. Looks like they experienced some debugging
with Chrome.
With these tools with Chrome. So WebAssembly is really making some some leaps and bounds here. And to see Adobe Photoshop running in the browser, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I wonder what the speed is like. I didn't see that kind of outlined in here. We didn't have time to really read this in detail, but
I don't think they're breaking it down at that level just yet, but that's why it's a beta. So
it looks like there's something about performance, but it's nothing that we can really kind of gather how fast this is running. But generally with Emscripten and WebAssembly, the rule of thumb is it will run at 70% the speed of how it runs on a native device. Like that's kind of relative speaking. Like on my machine, if I ran this app natively on the hardware and then I ran it in the browser on the same hardware, it would be 30% slower in WebAssembly, which for all intents and purposes isn't like that big of a sacrifice.
Yes.
To get it off of a desktop installation and onto a web, that's the cost you're paying to webify that product. But I mean, 30%, it's it's not it's something you could ignore, but it's not huge either. So speaking of this, John, great article. I love this type of stuff.
Sure.
That brings us to today's, and it's very blurry. It's not coming in here, but very topical ASP.NET community stand-up. So this is still talking about WebAssembly because we're talking about Blazor. Now, instead of recompiling something to make it WebAssembly, Skia Sharp had, well, I guess, no, it still isn't that order of magnitude. They compiled Skia Sharp to WebAssembly. And if you're not familiar with Skia Sharp, it's a .NET library that allows you to do graphic manipulation, draw directly to the screen. They use this for Xamarin to draw like certain components that aren't supported by the native OS. So, for example, like a button is something that's natively supported on both iOS and Android, but maybe like a chart or something isn't. So you might use Skia Sharp to draw this chart on iOS and Android, so you get the same UI experience on both devices. They compiled this to WebAssembly, and now that Blazor has native interop with WebAssembly, meaning you can go directly to another WebAssembly compiled library without having to jump through too many hoops. You can natively interop with these other platforms or other softwares that are compiled to WebAssembly within Blazor. And what they were doing on the show here is they were drawing with WebGL in a Blazor frame using this external library that was Skia Sharp. So WebAssembly is really opening up some new doors.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome stuff. If you want to check that out, that was the .NET community stand-up. They have a lot of shows on this channel. But if you just drop .NET community stand-up in a search on Google, you'll bring up their homepage with all of their shows. So this is the .NET teams talking about what the latest things are that they're working on, the community's working on. Usually the show starts much like ours with a lot of links that they share about the topic that they're going to present on. And this is what they did today. So make sure you check them out.
Cool.
Speaking of coding shows, I did want to give a shout out here to some friends of ours that are starting up a Twitch channel as well. So they've actually been at this for a month now. So if you haven't gotten over to see the Rocket DevRel team on Twitch, make sure you drop over to them and check them out. They're actually in chat right now too. So Rocket DevRel, feel free to drop a link in chat there so people can easily find the show and click follow there. But one of the most recent ones was a recap of the
Versions
C#
1 to 9.
versions 129.
That's awesome.
129. Yeah, that is really awesome. So that was Jason Bach on his stream.
That'd be a long stream.
Let's see if I don't see where it says how long it was. I think it was just over an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. Hour and 3 minutes. So I imagine there's a lot of overlap between some of the versions, but if you're interested in the history of .NET, which is something we covered on this channel before you and I joined, John, Alyssa, Layla, and Jim were all on talking about the history of .NET and all of the crazy things that have happened just in the .NET realm.
Yep.
So if you want to continue that conversation, jump over to the Rocket DevRel channel and see the history of C# here with versions 1 through 9, right? So great stuff there, and good luck to the Rocket DevRel channel. Make sure you give them a follow.
Blazing through these.
Yeah. So Next.js 12.
Yes. Anyone out there doing any React development will certainly know about this, but Next is basically a React framework. It provides a whole bunch of tools for doing things during the compilation process. There's a bunch of things that you get out of the box with features. There's like a routing system. There's built-in CSS and Sass support. All kinds of extensibility throughout, pre-rendering, static generation, server-side generation, all the React stuff that you normally would be accustomed with. But it does a really good job of providing a foundation for building these things out. And Next.js 12 is basically the evolution of that model. They've made some relative improvements here. The big one is that they swapped out Webpack for SWC, which is a really fast web sort of compilation engine, and can greatly improve your test runs, especially if you're on TypeScript. So yeah, this is sort of like a canonical tool that you'll want to use in the context of a React app. So yeah, lots of stuff being added there.
What was that tool again? That the SWC? Yeah. So this is I was actually looking at this while you were talking at the beginning.
So it stands for Speedy Web Compiler. If you go to swc.rc, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we actually talked about this on the show before. So it looks like it's being rewritten in Rust.
Yes.
And that has gotten them some big speed improvements, which is really cool to see. Rust is one of those things that the community keeps chattering about, and I think it's gonna be one of those techs that sneaks up on us and everybody's using it. It seems to be pretty cool. It's interesting to see the shift again with the pre-compilers in the JavaScript world. I'm wondering if I haven't ever used this SWC. One of the things that was always a sticking point with Webpack was the configuration of it was always super difficult.
Yep, always fun. Always a good time with the Webpack configs.
So I'm wondering if this alleviates any of that. I haven't used it yet, so I'd love to hear from chat if anybody's using it, how it compares to Webpack.
It does have configuration, obviously. Any compiler would. So there are configuration settings. It's more, if I remember, more JSON oriented than say JavaScript oriented. Like Webpack is very JavaScript oriented, as opposed to just a description language, which is via JSON. So yeah, there are some subtle differences there. The config file, it depends on what part of SWC you're talking about. I know there's a bundler as well, which is the part that Webpack typically is part of, and that is definitely oriented more towards the JavaScript side of things. Meaning that when I say JSON versus JavaScript, obviously I'm aware of the fact that they're interchangeable in some respects, because you can put JSON as just an object description. But typically when you talk about configs, it's like, what does the general config look like? Is it just a description via JSON, or is it more JavaScript-y? These are technical terms you don't need to worry about. So yeah, that's what the bundler tends to look like more often.
Yep. This is a great pick, John. This is an article by CSS Tricks about the new CSS reset. So should we give people a primer on what a CSS reset is if they don't know what that means?
Sure. Yeah, so resets are fun. They tend to, I guess the best way to describe them is like, listen, we got to have a baseline of what we think everything is, before we go ahead and do anything. And so resets have they come in all kinds of flavors. They basically set canonical values for certain parameters and things that you would typically find, padding and so forth, because the browsers vary accordingly on these things. So I haven't heard about this new CSS reset though. So
yeah, Safari is one of the big outliers in this stuff. So you've got like Chrome, Firefox, IE, which is also Chrome. They all have like these baseline configurations of padding, but more importantly, like input components, generally have a lot of styling around them. Yeah. So you might add some styling to those things, and if you don't reset them first, they may look wildly different from one browser to another.
Maybe but also because of the fact that it's cascading, it can get tricky, right? Because it's like if you start from the wrong base and you start applying values that are relative, then you get different outputs.
Yeah. So a reset will help you get kind of to an even playing field. So
Yes.
when as you're building up your own custom style, you're completely overriding the ones that the browsers have provided. Usually it's getting some little nuance of like Safari or something out of your UI, so you can put your own skin on something. But it looks, these things evolved over time, and Rocket DevRel here is talking about like the Eric Meyer reset. That's probably one of the more
Yep.
popular ones.
Yep.
I think that's the one I use as well. I usually pull those in either off a CDN or just copy paste. But this is using more modern like CSS3 to
Yep.
target things, so it reduces the file size a bit. I mean, you could see it fits on a screen here, and I think like the older CSS reset. Here's the Eric Meyer one right here. I wonder if it shows in the yes. You could see.
Yeah.
This has probably been refactored a bit since the last time I saw it too. It's really pretty short as well. But these used to be, as browsers get more standardized, these things shrink too. But as the language gets more robust to describe what you're trying to do, they also get shortened. Like this new where clause is a brand new CSS thing that is now kind of ubiquitously supported in the browser. So you have like this where parentheses not, where it's not an iframe, a canvas, a video, etc., or an SVG, then it's going to do some work on those items. So this shortens things up quite a bit, and it turns into really just 5-6 statements, and you've got a reset. So that's pretty handy.
Nice.
Nice. It looks like Chris DeMars is talking at Connect Tech, which I'll see you there in a couple of weeks, my friend. He is going to cover some of these new keywords in CSS in those talks. So looking forward to that. I will, if I am still in town while you're giving your talk, I will definitely come see that. I need to learn a bit more about those. JetBrains. So let's cover this first, and then we'll circle over to JetBrains. This came with a lot of drama. I'd like to stay away from the drama parts, and we could say there's drama, but let's.
We'll need a new theme jingle for drama.
We'll stay. We need the Ron Burgundy like stay classy. Like that's where we need to be on this. So hot reload. It went back and forth over the week. Started what, Thursday or Friday last week?
It started a while ago. Yeah. And then it got picked up, and then like anything, it picked up traction. So
so here's the originating blog post, October 20th. So it's a couple days. This transpired Wednesday of last week. There was an update from the Visual Studio team. Dimitri, I feel bad because I don't shoot the messenger on some of these things, folks. Like, be cordial with the engineers that have to deal with these type of announcements. They talked about updating the hot reload in Visual Studio, and when you got to the very end of the article, the long story, the TLDR here was things were a little bit behind as far as features go. They were placing more focus on the Visual Studio versions of the hot reload, and then there was kind of this somewhat mysterious bit about it being removed from the CLI completely.
Yes.
And originally I had thought that this meant that they were, shifting gears a little bit and putting a little bit more dev effort into the Visual Studio projects. And it wasn't quite ready for prime time with the command line. So they were going to, pull it out for future release. But it turns out that wasn't what was happening. They were pulling it out completely. It was not going to be released even in the future when hot reload got to be, mainstream on all the Visual Studio products. It still wasn't going to come back. And it left kind of like this, this bad sentiment with the community that, the Microsoft of old was taking back the reins to make things, proprietary technology, pulling away from open source. And, there's a lot of amazing people within the org, like Scott Hanselman and Scott Hunter, that have worked extremely hard to get the community where it is with the open source aspects of things. There was also some drama with .NET Foundation, and all of that led to just like a really bad week for
that's
the
one way
folks
to
over there.
describe it. Yeah, relative to open source, Microsoft has not had their best day.
Yeah,
that's the best way to put it. But these things can be easily fixed. Do the right thing, and then move on.
So once again, those same people, I imagine, this is a lot of folks inside, not just the two that I mentioned. There's a lot of people in the .NET teams that support open source and listen to the community and provide feedback to folks higher up that aren't as directly in touch with developers as they are. I think they went and pled their case en masse to management there, and it looks like they were able to overturn this decision to pull the tool out of the .NET release. And
so the system worked, is what you're saying.
The feedback loop worked, yes. So
correct.
There are some really fantastic people in that group that went up to bat for the community, and they won. So this is a good thing. I think we need to kind of accept that there's people there that are willing to go out of their way to make sure they can right these wrongs. And they did that, so that's good. So hot reload. So the short of it is, it was out and it's back.
Now it's been hot reloaded.
It's been hot reloaded. It is back. So we can all
Which is a good thing. We want hot reload.
And then of course JetBrains is like, hey, if you just use Rider, we've got hot reload too. So I thought I'd drop this in there for them. They implemented their own hot reload, so they weren't relying on the one that's out there. They went ahead and made sure that they were safe to go ahead and roll their own. So they have hot reload in Rider. So if you're using Blazor and ASP.NET Core, check out Rider. They've got some hot reload functionality built in there as well. And there's multiple tools out there to get the job done, whether using the .NET CLI or Visual Studio or Rider from JetBrains. You can get your job done. I believe JetBrains Rider is also multi-platform too. So if you're on Mac and Linux and those type of things, I believe that works for you as well.
Yes, it does.
It's kind of an uncomfortable and odd segue. Open Silver, more Microsoft. This time they didn't really pull something out of developers' hands. This is kind of a long time thing coming. The support for Silverlight has ended. They've been telling people this is going to end for quite a while now.
Yep.
And it finally has been, given the funeral procession. So Open Silver has announced that 1.0 has arrived, and this is as Microsoft End support. So this is an open source implementation of Silverlight, so people can continue building applications within the Silverlight realm. I'm not a Silverlight dev, so I'm not sure exactly how this all works, but this is looking to help people transition from their Silverlight apps to this Open Silver software. So if you're a Silverlight dev, you're still doing Silverlight, and you refuse to let it die.
Yep.
If you've got your Silverlight code in one hand and your Windows phone in the other, and you're clutching them tightly, this is the software for you. So make sure you check them out. Another good video and personality to check out. I'm sure you probably already know Sean Wildermuth. If you don't, he's got a great video out on his YouTube channel talking about Tailwind CSS, and the video is kind of discussing the point of the framework. And I guess there's always different parts of this community, a developer community in general, that there's several tools to get a job done. And then there's, of course, like usually I'll write it from scratch crowd.
Yes.
He's kind of giving you the gist of what exactly Tailwind CSS is and who it helps and why you should use it. And it doesn't mean you have to agree with it at the end of the video. It just means like, here's, I'm going to inform you on the pros, the cons, and what's the target audience for this thing and why should you use it? And you make your decision from there. So it's really well worded, well done video, only 20 minutes long. So if you're, if you haven't learned about what Tailwind is exactly yet, or maybe you've got some preconceived notions of what it is, just watch the video. He'll give you the highlights of what it's great at, and you see if it fits in your toolbox or not. So
one thing about his background there is, which is interesting, is you can tell, this is how old I am, I can tell what some of those books are, and I can tell what some of those awards are. I think that's Essential Com by an A-Press. That's design patterns next to it. Windows 98. It's fuzzy. I can't make them all out. There's an MCSD exam study guide. There's all kinds of things in there. So yeah, you might be a developer if you recognize those things.
Sean Wildermuth is like old school .NET royalty. You know what I mean? I mean, he's been in the business for a long time. I mean, look at the let's see.
Yeah, the MVP award.
The MVP award
over 10 years.
It's like, talk about Stack Overflow, right? Like this is in every essence of the word.
Yeah, they got a bad design there. So
he needs to refactor that thing. I mean, that's amazing. Amazing achievement. He's a really nice guy too. I've met him in person before.
Yeah.
Fantastic Pluralsight author. But anyway, I wanted to promote his video because this is a topic that I also talk about here and there. I'm not a user of Tailwind, and I just wanted to kind of brush up on some of the talking points that he covered, just to make sure I was on the right page. I don't think I'm right 100% of the time. I always question my own judgment on this type of thing, and I try to keep an open mind about these frameworks. And I'll probably get asked this question at conferences, which are starting to be a real thing again. And I don't want to misinform people to either go towards or away from Tailwind without understanding what type of developer they are, or what they may use it for, and cover all the points that he covered. So now this is kind of a cheat sheet for me to help inform those people. And of course, I can always refer them to his video when they ask me these questions. So thanks to Sean for making such a good video. And then we got, I swear, Chris DeMars, you changed your from Rocket DevRel to your own persona here, just to drop the just don't use Bootstrap in chat. I love you, man. That's it's too good, dude. We will chat about Tailwind and Bootstrap when we are in Atlanta. That will be a conversation to be had. So finally, John, last article we've got here on the list. If you're a .NET developer, make sure you check out crosscuttingconcerns.com. This is a blog by Matt Groves. He's a dev advocate over at Couchbase, and every year he does this really cool thing with the .NET
Advent calendar.
He does an Advent calendar. So Advent is, just like you'd get when you're a kid. You open it up every day and there's like candy inside, or some kind of little toy or something. In that same respect, there's a blog post for .NET on every day from December 1st until the 25th. Something in line with the .NET, C#, anything in the .NET universe is on this Advent calendar. It's always well presented, and there's really awesome people that sign up for it. There's actually gonna be 2 posts each day, which is something I think he started last year.
Yep.
This is 5 years running now. This is like
it's good idea. I like it.
Mm-hmm. So you can see people are already signing up in this list, including yours truly.
Nice.
But these little packages will open up starting December 1st. You'll be able to just binge on .NET content for 25 days.
Nice.
And it is really awesome. And look at the bookend here. I mean, you got Michael Jolly at the end, saving like the best for last. Calvin Allen is in there. These are all people that I absolutely love following their content as it is, and now I've got them all bundled up in one post. DPF, David Pine, is that who you're talking about? We need to let David know. I don't see his name in there yet, but there's still a lot of open spaces too. So if you are in the blog mood, jump into that C# Advent calendar and sign yourself up. But yeah, look forward to that in December. So we've got about a month away before that's going to actually start getting posts. Can you believe that, John? A month away? Just a month?
I can believe it. I've looked at the calendar. It's clearly a month, and so I can believe it. I love how people are like, the summer's almost over. Can you believe it? I'm like, yes, it's been warm for a while. Now it's getting colder. Therefore, it's entering autumn. So I can believe it. So
yeah,
it's a weird expression I've always had in my head. I'm like, why do people say that? Can you believe it? I'm like, yes.
So I'm central. I'm like mid part of the US, like here in Kentucky, and like we're supposed to get like all 4 seasons, right? We've got the nice warm, hot summer. And they're all like equally spaced out, spring, winter, fall, all that good stuff. But every once in a while, and it depends on how the year plays out. Like we get these weird things. Like this year we had like a spring that lasted halfway into like midsummer. So to pay the earth back for that nice extended spring we had like no fall. So we went from like 80 to 90 degree weather to it's going to be like freezing tomorrow. Why not? Where did fall go?
Basically did put the thermostat and just put it right to 0, basically.
Yeah, it's like no fall for you. It's going straight from summer to winter overnight. Like deal
Perfect.
with it.
Yep.
This happened like a couple of years ago too. It's not anything that's brand new. Probably could be a climate change thing. I don't know, but it's definitely
speaking as
happened.
a Canadian, speaking as an expat Canadian now living in Australia, two probably the most extreme places in terms of weather on the planet.
Yeah.
I find your stories of weather amusing.
I'm sure, and insects as well. I'm sure. Like,
Sure.
oh, the spider was this big. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
those are food for our spiders.
That's right.
Awesome. One more announcement to make here too. This isn't actually an announcement, maybe a teaser to an announcement. Tomorrow is going to be a release of some sorts here at Progress Telleric. So keep your eyeballs peeled for our Twitter channels. And I should have a show around 10 a.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. Depending on how our launch goes, that should be on time. And I will cover in the launch on that show if it is something I can do.
I have one question. Is this is this an upgrade to an existing product, or is this a launch of a new product?
I don't think I can answer that without giving too much away.
No worries. Okay, good. Good. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
It is related to things that we do already. So it's not like
great.
It's a new thing, but it's not for a platform. Not for a platform we don't already deal with.
All right.
So it's not going to be like the UI for Metaverse
Stop
or
digging.
something crazy.
Stop digging. You're going to get yourself in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble.
This isn't like an AR thing, some wild. It's going to be very awesome for the community, and
so Telleric Multiverse is not coming, is what you're saying?
Not it. You're hot or not hot on that one. You're very cold. But before I give too much away, we'll quit messing around with that topic. But tune in tomorrow for my show,
teaser.
And you'll find out what we're gonna launch tomorrow. And we'll have it on our Twitters and stuff too, social media channels.
Nice.
You can jump on and check this thing out. I can say it will be a free to use thing. How about that? So it's not. Yeah, they're not going to be charged for it. So I'm not advertising something tomorrow. You'll get to use it right away. So.
Yep.
All right, John. With that said, before I get canceled here. I'm going to say goodbye, and we will
All right.
see you tomorrow, same bat channel. Take
All
care,
right.
everybody.